lead the leadership of this great city, the next great city. Heavenly Father, we thank thee and ask that you will continue to lead the council members and everyone concerned. Thank you, dear Heavenly Father, again for the blessings. Continue to lead and guide us that we will do the things that are pleasing in your eyesight. These and all other blessings we thank thee in thy Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver Jenkins will give us the pledge, please.
Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk,
Mr.
please.
Phillips. Here. Mr. Everson.
Here.
Mr. Oliver Jenkins.
Present.
Mr. Corbin.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Mr. Shine.
Present.
Mr. Sam Jenkins.
Present.
Okay, Councilman Carmen, I will accept a motion from you for the approval of the minutes of the administrative conference on Monday, October 13th, 2014. City Council meeting Tuesday, October 14th, 2014. And amendment number 1 to council proceedings, October the 14th. It has been moved by Councilman Mike Carmen, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. At this point, if we have any questions or discussion, I'll entertain it. If not, let's all vote. Minutes have been approved with a 7-0 vote. Mr. Mayor, we're glad to see you here, and we're glad to see you dressed like you dress. I like that.
Well, thank you.
If Dale, if you could get me one of those, get mine in large. You got his in super large, so that'll be fine with me, Mr. Mayor. Okay.
In other words, Cedric Glover size versus Joe Shine size.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please don't get me a Cedric Glover size. Yeah. My wife wouldn't recognize me walking around the house. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Shine, members of the council. I want to start today off, since you made reference to the shirt that I'm wearing, inviting Shelley Regal with Shreveport Parks and Recreation and Public Facilities up to share with you all a little bit about some of the outstanding events that have transpired throughout the city of Shreveport, Northwest Louisiana, over the last several days. As I mentioned to you all on yesterday, if you are one of those folks who complains about not having anything to do in Shreveport, certainly this past weekend was not one of those where you would have been lacking in wonderful things to do. I had a great chance to kick off my Saturday morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, with a wonderful event out at what I grew up calling Captain Shreve Stadium, now what's known as Lee Hedges Stadium, with an event that was sponsored by the leadership of the Parks and Recreation Department, folks who are under the supervision of one Shelley Regal, but instead of her being one of the orchestrating individuals, she was one of the honorees, and she was joined by several others in recognizing that the month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it was a day of youth football, but wrapped around it was a series of events that helped to spread information about breast cancer, places where individuals can go for screenings, how they can receive support in the event that they actually develop breast cancer. A great event, great number of people. Shelley, would you share with us a little bit more detail about it?
Yes. Shelley, it's so good to see you. And Mayor, I got my pink shirt on for breast cancer, and it was donated to me because they didn't know whether I was going to have breast cancer or not by Councilwoman Rose McCullough. And I appreciate that. And Shelley, I know that was a great event on Saturday, and I know if Sam, Oliver, Michael, and Jeff, and Ron had known it, they would have all been there. And Rose is a part of, what is it, AKA?
Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Alpha Kappa Alpha, and you know they always support breast cancer.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of people in our community supporting breast cancer every day. I stand before you not only to talk to you about SPAR, but as a survivor. It's been 4 years and about 2 months since I was diagnosed, and I told them that if I could have done backflips, and I would have, that's the way I would have made my way up to receive my honor on Saturday. We were proud to do the event, to bring awareness. Not only what happened on Saturday was bringing awareness to people about testing and about services that are available, but most of all, there were lots and lots of young people there, young little athletes who have parents who are going through cancer, aunts, uncles, grandparents. And the message that we tried to send to them on Saturday is that it's survivable. And so that when these young people hear that word, they're not scared every time they hear it, that there are people who have had cancer and who have survived it. And those of us who have are honored and proud to not only be here, but to be part of passing that message along to other people who are going through it. So it was a really great way to kick off Saturday. And as the mayor said, we talked about this in our department head staff meeting, there was more to do in Shreveport this Saturday than you could probably get to with Farmers Market. We had a big event underneath the Texas Street Bridge for children from 10 to 4 with a radio station called Boo Under the Bridge. We come and get your candy. For Halloween, we had tailgating, so it was a big day of events. But it was a really good morning to start it off. And I want to end by saying that, you know, the way I got through this was faith, friends, and family. And my bosses were very supportive during that time, and a lot of people don't have the luxury of the kind of job I had where you had people who you worked for, all of you. I heard from each of you during that time, but to have people that support you and support you during your treatments and your surgeries and all of that means a lot, and I'm glad I get the opportunity today. Thank you to all of you, especially the mayor and to Dale, because they were there when it was a very difficult time. So thanks again, and thanks for allowing us the opportunity to produce these kind of events for our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Shelley. Mr. Chairman, being the son of a breast cancer survivor, I certainly amen all of what Shelley has just expressed, and I think also it is worth mentioning as our very own former Chancellor of LSU Shreveport, whose name is slipping my mind, my recollection, Vince Marcella, would be able to attest to. This is not simply a malady that strikes only women. This is something, in fact, that has the ability to be able to affect men. Dr. Marcella is an example, one that all of us will know who are fans of 70s blaxploitation film. Richard Roundtree, the original Shaft, right, also is a male breast cancer survivor as well. And so I want to thank Shelley for sharing her challenges, and all of those folks who came out on Saturday to be a part of a wonderful event, and certainly also commend the other departments of the city of Shreveport. Shreveport Fire Department goes pink as well during the month of October, and appreciate all that they do to help support this worthy cause. With that, Mr. Chairman, and we're going to do all of our communications in one, if you don't mind, would like to bring up Chief Neighbor as well as Dr. Martha White. Chief Neighbor is the head of the Shreveport Emergency Medical Service. Yes, sir, Mr. Shine.
While they're coming up, Shelley, I believe Mr. Preston Edwards passed, Mayor, with, I think he had cancer. I don't know what it was, breast cancer. He did pass. Right. Not sure what. And he was an employee, one of your top administrators at one of the great parks. Right. And I think his funeral is tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. But he had cancer, and for some reason they just took him right on out.
Outstanding man. I believe right. Worked in the Moortown area.
He sure did. At one of our great parks.
Absolutely. Chris Hayes Park?
That's right, Chris Hayes Park.
Absolutely.
That's right. All right. Thank you, folks.
Mr. Chairman, there has been obviously a great deal of public discussion over the recent weeks about the Ebola virus and its implications for the country as a whole, places like Shreveport in particular. The great news is that we are well served here in Shreveport with some professionals who have been on point, focused on this issue from the very beginning. And I want to give the opportunity for the council and our citizens to receive a brief overview of some of the things that have been underway for some period of time regarding the awareness as well as the preparation for any potential problems or challenges. Chief Tabor is the head of EMS for the Shreveport Fire Department, and Dr. Martha White is the Region 7 head of the Office of Public Health. She also comes from a great lineage of public servants. Her father, I'm having a senior moment today. Dr. McDonald. I was about to say Ike Muslow, and I didn't want to say that because I knew it wasn't the same. See, exactly. Dr. John McDonald, a dear man.
Great man.
Served
Great.
this area extremely well.
For years.
Helped to, in fact, the first chancellor of the Shreveport Medical School campus, on one of the things I was privileged to help to work with as a member of the legislature. But his great work is carried on here by his daughter, who heads up, as I said, the Region 7 Office of the Office of Public Health. She has been on point, helping to coordinate the issues, as well as all of the various entities and parties that would be involved in a potential response from this area. In particular, they started this effort a week ago Saturday with a public awareness effort at the Shreveport called Ebola 101. In the intervening time, there has been a series of tabletop exercises, a convening of other folks in various capacities from around the area, and we have them here today to be able to share with you all exactly where we are and what kind of preparations are in place. With that,
She looked so young until I thought she was a senior at LSU. I didn't
Well, thank you.
know she was a doctor all over.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it over to her and let her do her presentation, and I'm going to be here for any other questions involving the fire department's role and what we've done as far as the community service.
Thank you. The mic is yours.
So this is actually the presentation that we did at Shreveport for the public. It was a public panel, and it was Dr. John Vancherry and Dr. Jared Comprero joined me for that. So I just wanted to say they helped me with these slides. So first, what I just wanted to really do is I've been going around, not just to y'all, but to many groups talking about exactly what Ebola is. Ebola is a filoviridae, and it just means, philo means filament. Everybody thinks scientists are so smart, but we just use fancy names for simple words. So philo is filament, and if you see it, it looks like a thread, right? And it is an RNA virus, and what that tells you is it's not real sturdy. DNA, has the double helix, and it's a very strong virus. RNA viruses are more wimpy. They tend to break down quicker, and it does have a little bit of protein around the outside of it, which gives it an envelope, which makes it last a little bit longer. We have 5 subtypes of Ebola, and Zaire is really the one that we're worried about right now. It's the outbreak it's what's causing the outbreak right now. And the last one, Rustin, is just a laboratory virus, so it's not seen. There's been no disease in humans from that. And this is just a complicated slide to tell you what we don't know about Ebola. Ebola is hosted in bats. That's where you find it normally. And it goes from bat to bat, and they don't exactly know how. They transmit it among themselves. Occasionally a bat will transmit it to another non-human primate or a rodent, and they don't know exactly how that happens. When one of those gets sick, you can see a jump into the human population. Again, they're not sure how that happens. So those 3 jumps, they're not sure. What they do know, and they've studied, is that it's only transmitted human to human. So it's not transmitted by a mosquito. It's not transmitted like if they've been quarantining dogs. A dog can't get sick and then give it to another human. We can get them sick on occasion. They can get sick from whatever made us sick, but they can't give it to another human. So Ebola's been being studied since 1976. That was the first outbreak, and it was along the Ebola River, which is how it's got its name. And really the main thing about this slide is I want you to look at the percentages, and those are the mortality rates. And that's why everybody gets scared about Ebola. But you have to remember that these are mortality rates in countries without the medical and public health infrastructure that we have here. So we don't know exactly what the mortality rate would be in the United States if we had a true epidemic. But when you see those numbers, like 88%, 81% of people who become ill die, that's what scares people when they hear about Ebola. This is where our current outbreak is, and I did change the numbers, but I forgot to change the date on my slide, so that's as of today. There are 10,141 cases in these 3 countries. There are 4,900 deaths, which is about a 48% mortality rate. So what are the symptoms? Well, what you see with Ebola early on is a fever, a headache, muscle aches. They tend to feel weak and just achy all over, which is what we see with what? The flu. So it's really, that's what's most concerning for us right now, is we don't want people, as the flu season starts to come upon us, to start thinking, I have Ebola. You know, so we want to make sure that they learn about Ebola and what their true risks are. It will progress into the diarrhea and vomiting and the bleeding. And the reason why that is everything becomes leaky. You leak water into your gut, you throw up, you have very bad diarrhea. Your blood vessels become leaky, and that's where you start having the bleeding. You can have internal bleeding, but you can also have bleeding from your gums, from your nose. You can have bleeding on any wounds, and you can even get like blood blisters. If you've seen those pictures, that's where you see the people with their skin sloughing. So how do we test for it? Well, you have to test for the nucleic acid, the RNA. It's what they call a PCR test. But the most important thing you have to know is there's only 14 labs that test for it. So it's all run through public health and through CDC, and they will make sure whether you need to be tested or not, and then if so, they'll have that sample sent to a qualified lab. So how is it transmitted? People ask me all the time, and if you look on Facebook, the big rumors are it's mutated and it's airborne. It's not mutated. Everything that lives on this earth evolves, right? We all want to live better. We all want to learn how to do it better. But there's never been a virus that has jumped in how it infects people, infects anything. So if it's a respiratory virus, it infects you, it won't change to a bloodborne virus. If it's airborne, it won't change to respiratory droplets. So it's never happened. Doesn't mean it can't, but there are a lot of things that possibly could happen. We can't worry about them all. It's never happened in the past. So this virus is transmitted through bodily fluids, vomit, stool, urine, saliva, semen, breast milk, all those secretions. And respiratory droplets, I just want you to know, it's not when we sit here, breathe in and out like the flu. That's what they call is airborne. So if we're sitting here just because we're close enough, we're sharing germs. You can't transmit Ebola like that. Respiratory droplets are those deep, wet, mucus-filled droplets that you cough out when you have that thick, wet cough. So that's not what you're talking about, just sitting here even sneezing or breathing on each other. So what is your risk? There's only 2 groups of people that are at risk. Now, if this outbreak became more of an epidemic in the United States, the risk might change. But right now, your only risk is if you travel to these countries or if you're taking care of someone who is actively ill with Ebola. So if you're not traveling to Liberia, Guinea, or Sierra Leone, or you're not treating someone who's sick with Ebola, you're safe. Gotta say that over and over again because people get real nervous. I'm gonna skip. The prevention was really, the first prevention is really for healthcare workers. This side is really what I want people to get. You can't get it through the air. A lot of people ask about water supplies. You can't get it through the water. As you know, we've had the problem with amoebas. Well, one thing that did is that upped our chlorine levels in our water systems. And that's even more, even at the lower levels, we were safe from viruses and enteric pathogens. So you can say for sure that we are safe from Ebola in our water. And it's not in food. And a lot of people ask me because 70% of your chocolate, of your cocoa beans are grown in West Africa, which I didn't know. But you can't get it through chocolate, which I'm happy, or I'd be dead a long time ago. The biggest thing I want to say is please get your flu shot. 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 36,000 people a year in this country die from the flu. So we're talking about 4,500 people have died from Ebola. 36,000 people every year die from the flu. So please get your flu shot. This is just a containment unit. Everybody talks about Emory in Nebraska. They have built these special units which just keeps everything contained. So they do their own laundry, they do their own lab. Nothing leaves that area. I talked to an airman physician who actually treated people in tents in Ebola. And you know, really what you need is a way to wash your hands and good PPE and know how to use it. So this is wonderful if you have it, but you don't have to have it to treat someone with Ebola. Right now there's no drugs or vaccines for Ebola. Everybody did a lot of research and we got all the way to the point of human testing, but because there were so few cases worldwide every year, because if you notice that, we didn't really get through the outbreaks, but they're only like every few years, and there's only a few hundred people until this one. So it really wasn't cost effective to do the human testing and the cost that it would take to do those testing and then produce it. So we're right there on a lot of drugs and even vaccines for Ebola, but it's probably going to take another year before you see those come out. And then this is the one thing I want to make sure you get, is the perspective. So you know where we are with Ebola. With pan flu that we talked about in 2009, almost 61 million Americans got sick from pan flu. 550,000 people died around the world from pandemic flu. Every year, even now, as far as we've been, you know, I think HIV reminds me a lot of Ebola right now because it has that same fear associated with it. We still are having 14,800 deaths in the U.S. from HIV, even with all our medicines. And hepatitis C, 16,000 deaths. So we need to keep it in perspective and to remember your risks. And we talked about that. So what do I do for you guys? My job is to educate people, to talk to as many groups as I can. My job is to get information from the CDC through the state to all of our stakeholders. So we've been working closely with hospitals, EMS, local providers, physicians, urgent cares, talking to the community, people who are afraid. So I've been asked to many groups. And also, we're the ones that will do the contact monitoring. So if we had a case or someone that was being isolated, we would be the ones that would go and check on all of the people that they came into contact with, see which of those people have to be followed, and then the contacts of those contacts. So we do 2 rings, and that's what public health would do for you. And you hear the difference between quarantine and isolation. Isolation is really what they use when they're talking about in the hospital, like in an isolation room. Excuse me. Self-isolation is what public health says. So if I can come and talk to you and explain to you the risks, and you agree to stay at home and watch your temperature and let us know if you have any symptoms, then I'm going to let you do that. If you don't agree to do that, or if I'm not sure that you're responsible enough to do it, then we may have to go to the route of quarantine, which is a legal issue. And then I just put up our resources. But that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me or about what we've been doing, concerns or issues?
Quiet bunch. I just want to assure you that we're working closely hand in hand. The city is working with public health on the state, local, regional level. We've had numerous tabletop exercises planning, some that included air travel, some that included just hospital, and then daily routine emergency medical services through the fire department with the city, and we are prepared. We've got the equipment we need. Of course, as everything changes, we make that change, we adjust to it. Basically, this is playbook for the coach, so if anything goes on, we're ready. So just wanted to assure you and the community that we're on top of it.
And 911 is already doing their screening questions to find out your risks so that they can tell law enforcement or fire EMS if they're going into a risky situation, as well as our hospitals. If you go into Willis-Knighton or any of the hospitals, Willis-Knighton I know has you have to check in on the electronic board. It asks you those questions, and if you check yes, it comes up orange, and they have a whole plan as to how they're going to handle you. So I think we're really prepared, as prepared as we can be.
Any questions?
Great information. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr.
Wonderful.
Thank you all. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
council members, this is what a subject matter expert-driven response to a challenge like Ebola actually looks like. I could be tempted to do my best Bobby Jindal imitation and stand up in front of you all and recite all of these different facts and pretend as if I am as knowledgeable and as in command of the facts as Dr. White and Chief Tabor. But the truth of the matter is, this is the kind of situation where we need to look to those folks who actually have the knowledge, the experience, the training to take the lead. They have done an outstanding job of it, and we certainly look forward to continuing to support, to work with them as they go forward. Also, as you all are aware, this probably also represents the really first serious public health question challenge circumstances since we've had the disbandment of the Caddo Bossier Office of Emergency Preparedness and Homeland Security. So you do now have the sheriff who's also engaged with Dr. White and with Chief Tabor and with Chief Shaw and the folks in the Shreveport Police Department, all working together to coordinate any issues or concerns that need to be addressed in terms of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. And again, they're doing an outstanding job. I appreciate the work that they're doing, and thank you all for listening. And we certainly want to share this information with our citizens, and in particular stress what Dr. White said at one point during her presentation, and that is it's very important this year amongst all the other years for folks to get their flu shots, because as we move into the flu season and people begin to develop the flu, you will probably find lots of folks who will probably wonder as they develop those symptoms whether or not what they actually are experiencing could be some form of Ebola. We can end up doing ourselves a lot of good by doing as much as we can to keep the overall flu level down as much as possible for Shreveport, Caddo Parish, and Northwest Louisiana. So, as she said, that's the number one issue, the number one thing that folks can do to help address and help to alleviate and diminish the potential of any problems to develop here. With that, Mr. Chairman, we turn it back over to you and the council.
I'm glad to see you take this step because it's been politically motivated so far. You got people who saying that Barack Obama is the cause that it's in America, and I wouldn't want them to say Cedric Glover is the cause that's in Shreveport. So I think you're doing the same thing, and you will have a group who will say that. I don't, it worries me more, that ignorance worries me more than Ebola.
Absolutely.
Did you want to say anything else?
Let's get on the record, please. The one thing, Mr. Chairman, as Dr. White makes her way up, the one thing you can be assured of, anything I would look to pull would certainly not look to endanger the chocolate supply.
I can believe that. Can't you all believe that? I can believe that. Okay, Doc.
I just wanted to say that
Stand in front of Mike.
that I've met with all the supervisors for the sheriff's office. So I've met with all their shift supervisors, with the jail supervisors, and the medical from the CCC. And then I'm meeting with all the patrol supervisors. I'm going to roll call on Thursday morning, and then with all the police supervisors throughout tomorrow and Thursday. So there has been a lot of engagement. As far as the medical community, we've been engaged for over a month now with a lot of interaction. So I don't want anybody to think that that there hasn't been that communication. Lots of it.
Thank you, Doc. All right, let me get to, oh, Mayor, did you have anybody else you wanted to recognize?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
Did you have anybody else you wanted to recognize?
Just all of the folks who are gathered here, as we do, anyone who takes time to come down and be a part of our proceedings in person. We certainly enjoy having them here. All those who are watching us at home via cable or by Ustream, we welcome them as well. Thank you for being a part of the democratic process.
All right, Dale, that kind of sounds like my preach on Sundays. Welcome, everybody. Council members, you have any special guests that you wanted to recognize? If not, Mr. Thompson, if you're ready, we're gonna come to you in a minute. Mr. Mr. Green. Okay, anybody have any questions or comments, any remarks?
Thank you for this.
You're welcome. Is that the only thing?
Thought I'd say, and thank you. Just want to say thank you for the kind of person I am.
Oh, okay. Very compassionate. Okay, anybody else? If not, Mr. Green, you've done an excellent job. Nobody have anything to say? Mr. Sibley, do you have anything there at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman, we'll have updates on revenue, and I think I can cover Ms. Scott and surety bond. We'll have all that at the first November meeting. We'll have updates on that.
Okay, well, I just don't want to overlook Ms. Scott, so she's
I think she's still upstairs.
She's upstairs, okay. Mr. Sweeney,
I think Mr. Jean is standing
yeah,
in
that's what I'm
today.
saying. I mean, everything was all right yesterday? Okay, then. All right. Mr. Sibley, Mr. Thompson, if you don't mind it, we'll go to Mr. Sibley for the public hearing. And if you're ready, Mr. Sibley, I'd like to open this public hearing.
I'll read the...
This is a resolution authorizing the city to close and restrict vehicular access to Lake Street from Commerce Street to Shreveport Center and otherwise providing with respect thereto. I don't know whether or not the mayor has any opening statements about this.
We do have a presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Robert Westerman from City Engineer will present some background on the situation as well as present some information that specific council members have asked for in terms of traffic counts and things like that in the area. So if it's okay, we'll go with Mr. Westerman at this point.
And let me say this, after we get through with the presentation, then we will open it up for citizens to speak in regard to this action.
And Mr. Chairman, I will say before we start, I think our neighbor mayor would say this information Mr. Westerman is presenting is purely information. It's not a position. It's not a judgment or anything on the situation. It's purely background and information that the council has requested.
And we will get the different positions from our citizens.
Correct. Thank you, sir.
Persons who are involved.
Mr. Mayor,
Robert?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
members of the council. The city received a request to make the railroad crossing at Lake Street, the Union Pacific Railroad Company, between Commerce and Clyde Fent Parkway, a no-blow zone crossing. Federal regulations require that a train blow its horn in advance of any at-grade crossing. A no-blow zone crossing is a crossing that, in addition to the normal grades and lights that you see, has other safety measures which prevents the weaving of traffic around the gate system because they don't hear a train from that standpoint. The blowing of train horns has been determined to be a nuisance to business in the area, such as the hotel formerly known as the Holiday Inn. The city has met with the LADOTD, the Union Pacific Railroad, and the Federal Highway Administration to discuss the requirements for a no-blow zone crossing.
It's determined that this crossing would qualify as a no-blow zone crossing with the necessary safety measures installed. It was determined that the process for the application, design, and construction would take approximately 2 to 3 years, and the crossing improvements would cost in excess of $700,000. A second alternative was proposed to close the crossing to vehicular access. The railroads in this case would no longer be required to blow the horns at the crossings with the crossing closed. The city was not in favor of this option and proposed an interim measure instead. The city celebrates many festivals in the downtown area. Some of these festivals require that the Clyde Fant Parkway be closed to traffic during the festival operation. The use of Lake Street during these closure time means that the average citizen would not be required to detour over 4 miles out of their way in order to get to downtown Shreveport. Therefore, the city that proposed that during the closure times of the parkway, Lake Street would be open to permit the detour traffic. The closure would be accomplished by the use of a rolling gate system and would permit the city to open the roadway during the times of the festivals. While the gates are open, the railroads would again then be required to blow their horns. The reopening of the crossing would occur about 5 times a year and would be coordinated with the railroad on a yearly basis until the time that the city and the railroad have a permanent no-blow zone. The UPRR and the LADOTD were in agreement with this type of procedure. In preparation for the submission of a no-blow zone application, the LADOTD performed a diagnostic review of the crossing. This review revealed that there are 14 through trains and 2 switching movements on a daily basis at this crossing. The trains are required to blow their horns several times during each one of these movement phases. The train movements result in roadway blockages of about 20 minutes each time, which results in the roadway being effectively blocked for about 6 hours every day. A traffic count at Lake Street at the crossing revealed that there are 2,562 vehicles per day crossing this crossing, with 1,260 of the vehicles going eastbound and 1,300 of the vehicles going westbound. During the peak hour, there were 107 vehicles per hour westbound. In addition to the traffic count study done on Lake Street, traffic engineering completed a study of the Milam Street intersection with Clyde Fant Parkway. Peak hour Clyde Fant Parkway northbound to westbound left turn movements were 74 vehicles per hour during the peak hour. This represents less than 2 vehicles making a left turn at any given light cycle. The overall daily volume for the entire intersection was 14,310 vehicles per day. It represents a low to moderate type of volume for this type of roadway system. A safety study of the intersection revealed that there are no reported left turn accidents northbound in the past 12 months. There are no sight distance issues, and the safety study failed to reveal any abnormalities in the intersection. A left turn lane currently does not exist for northbound traffic at this intersection. Arrows without left turns are at best ineffective. Given those statistics, the city traffic engineer does not recommend a left turn phase at this location at this particular time. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions?
I did have a question, just in terms of, and this may not, you might be able to answer us, or it might be somebody else, but haven't I seen like fire vehicles lining up along Lake there for, do they have some sort of a use for that, the fire prevention? Does the fire department use that block? Anybody from fire answer that?
The block, where is the block?
Talking about on Lake there, I've just seen, and maybe that's just something I've just happened to have seen. I don't. It may have nothing, may not be anything formal at all. But I just seen where I've seen fire trucks kind of queued up there before, and I just didn't know if that was a particular reason or that may.
I don't know of any particular reason they would have, but I would defer an answer to them.
I mean, under certain special events and stuff. Come up and let us speak on the mic.
I was just going to say, on fire alarms and responding to the hotel, it looks like they use that area responding to hotel alarms with some, I'm out in English, by the way, there's some regularity. I'll talk later.
Okay.
A lot of times we will use that area to stage for certain events downtown, parades and such, to where it's easier for us to get in and out of the area if needed, and we keep that avenue open. Okay, so that basically helps us to get back and forth to the areas down there. Now, as far as the fire alarms and such, each piece of equipment has certain places they go and stage for an event. If it came in at a local hotel or something, we go to different areas.
Okay.
He's already retired too.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman.
I'm good.
I have attended a number of events at that hotel when, like wedding events and special occasions, and that train will come along and blow the horn, and it's very disruptive. It's very disruptive to the event, I think it's very disruptive to the people who are paying to be at the hotel. Here recently, I had a business guest that was actually staying at the hotel. If I recall, I think he said that the train came through. It may have been like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, blowing the horn. And, he relocated during the course of time he was here. He was here for 4 days. He left that hotel and went out to the Holiday Inn out west for that sole reason. So I got a feeling we have a problem here with that horn being a very disruptive, negative situation with the hotel at that intersection. So I think we need to take a very, very careful look at it. What I heard appeared to have been something of a reasonable approach, but I did have a question. When we're talking about a road closure, are we talking about closing it right there at the mouth of Lake, is that Hearn, I'm sorry, of Spring Street and Lake Street, or are we saying going down past the hotel before you get to the railroad tracks?
The closure we're proposing is at the track itself. No other section of the roadway would be closed.
So you'll be able to still turn right onto Lake Street and enter the hotel, and that area there will still have some public access. It's not going to just be where if you drive and you can't make if you're going, if you're going north, you can still make that right turn and have that part of the roadway still available.
Yes, sir. The businesses on that side of the track will have full access to Lake Street. In addition to Shreveport Center, it will still continue to have full access to Lake Street.
Robert, do you have a map?
Yes, sir, I do.
That may help everybody understand exactly
Both
what
have
y'all are talking
access to their portions of Lake Street, is what he said.
But
They'll still be closed.
They'll still be closed, but,
Just where the railroad track is.
yeah, I mean, you still get to the parking lot if you're trying to go to the parking lot of the Holiday Inn.
How do I turn this on?
Because the proposal I'm hearing is saying you're...
Staff, would you get us the board, please?
The proposal I'm hearing is saying you'll still be able to open the roadway for the festival Saturday.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
And then, let me ask this question. We're saying maybe 2 years, 2.5 years down the road, we'll have the crossbars in place, and it'll just be like any other road. When the crossbars come down, the train will not have to blow the horn, the crossbars are open, and traffic will be able to go through after the crossbars are constructed. So we may be talking about a little over 2 years of closure at the track, at the railroad tracks, and then when the crossbars are put in place, it'll be like any other road where we go through. When the crossbars come down, we stop. When the traffic will go through. So we're not talking about something permanent here. We're talking about something in a couple of years. We'll have the crossbars in place. I just want to make sure I understand that.
We were advised it would take 2 to 3 years to complete the process, and after that, it would be a no-blow zone, fully accessible. The 2 locations that we looked at closing the particular crossing here are located here on the west side of the tracks. This is the old Holiday Inn. The east side of the tracks located here would be the other closure. And again, you see the entrance into Shreveport here.
Shreveport is accessible from Clyde Fence Parkway to their building. Even if that's temporarily closed there, you'll still be able to get to Shreveport from Clyde Fence Parkway.
That is correct.
Are there some potential business construction or something that's going to take place in that area that needs to be considered? Or I'm not aware of anything.
Well, there's a number of businesses on Lake Street that have opened in the past year, in the block bounded by what is it, Spring and, or no,
West of Spring.
yeah, there is 5 or 6 businesses that have opened in the last year, and then a couple that opened a few years before that, in buildings that had long been vacant. And so, there has been sort of a rebirth of investment with small businesses in that area along Lake Street. Of course, there's also the Chateau Suites, the Shreveport Times building, and the office building that's on the corner there that has a parking lot where Business First Bank is located. So there's a number of other businesses on that kind of 2-block stretch there that are, would be impacted by this.
Adjacent, I want to make sure, the location I'm talking about now, where the hotel is located, where the roadway go down the side of that hotel, there's some businesses that have opened along that way, along that route there?
On the other side, so if somebody was on Clyde Fant going west, they would go over the railroad track and the Holiday Inn would be on your right. You'd pass through Market, and then there is an office building on your right, there's the Chateau Suites on your left, then there's the Shreveport Times office building, you go through another light at Spring, and then there is the Silver Lake Ballroom and the offices above that. And then beyond that is the new Bison Junk Cafe, and then Tattoo School, Eye Architecture, all of those other businesses.
I know the location that you're talking about. All right, well, I understand there'll probably be some more information coming from those who have a concern about it. I certainly want to hear what they have to say, but I don't see why any business would want a train coming through there blowing horns all time of day and all time of night. If something could be done to adjust that, but let's keep open minded. I guess just listen to what has to be said about it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mike.
And that concludes our presentation, Mr.
I
Chairman.
think Mike has a question for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Robert, it seems like 3 or 4 times a week I'm stopped at Florno Lucas and Uri Drive at the crossing.
Yes, sir.
There's a pretty elaborate system of gates that prevent a car from sneaking through. And I notice as the trains go through there, they're on their horn. And I get complaints about it all the time, depending on which way the wind's blowing, whether it's Azalea Gardens people or 12 Oaks people complaining about that train blowing the horn. Now, is there a separate application process and approval process? I mean, to put gates up, is that one problem? And to get it deemed a no-blow intersection or no-blow crossing, is that another problem and another set of approvals that need to be made?
Okay, with regards to what you specifically spoke about at Florno Lucas and Highway 1, the reason that is not a no-blow zone is normally a no-blow zone requires a 4-gate quadrant system. In other words, not only do you block the traffic proceeding to the crossing, but you block the other half of the road too at the same time. That prevents the weaving action that you would see with people bypassing a crossing. In that particular location, it does not have the 4-gate quadrant system.
Oh, I think it has double gates per side.
But they only close the westbound movement, and on the other side of the track, they close the eastbound movement. What I'm saying is they would be required to have gates going all the way across the roadway in both directions.
All right, so, but my real question is, are there 2 separate approval processes or mechanisms that have to happen? One, to get gates approved and installed, and second, to make it a no-blow crossing?
No, they can all be accomplished with one action.
And has the train track been there for 60, 70 years?
That track has been there since about 1875.
A few more years.
All right.
Just my math.
That's all I got.
Okay, Sibley, that's all the information you all have? And
Yes, sir. I think what we asked Robert to do was basically respond to specific issues that council members had raised and present the background on the situation, how we got involved, and who all met and how everything came about, and that's really all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Sibley, you all did an excellent job in presenting information, and now we will open this up and...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm sorry, one more question. The $700,000 necessary for the crossing now. Who pays for that? Is that
I beg your pardon?
$700,000 for the crossings?
The next mayor.
Well, the members that have discussed paying for this are the state, LADOTD would pay a portion of it. It's my understanding the hotel owners have committed to paying a portion of it, and the city would pay approximately a third of the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
I would add, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, as Dale said, this is information for you guys to digest. I will tell you part of what is the motivation is I grew up on the north side of Shreveport when I was a boy. What is now the Royal Inn was a Holiday Inn. It was a much different facility and had a much different presence and impact in terms of that region of the city. And no slight to the Royal Inn, but I don't want to see the downtown Holiday Inn become the next Royal Inn. I think, frankly, unless we figure out some way to address folks like the individuals that Councilman Sam Jenkins described who find themselves impacted negatively and who are now in a hotel market that has added some several thousand rooms since 2007 when we opened up the Shreveport Hilton, that the possibility exists that the once great, vaunted, much desired downtown Holiday Inn might become that off-brand bargain, less than desirable presence within our downtown front door. And so that's why we're here trying to figure out how to do something. And we know that there are no perfect answers except for some wonderful uncle of ours showing up with $700,000 to write that check to get this done very quickly.
And you know he died.
And he died.
Okay.
Yes, he did. So absent that, here we are.
All right, Mayor, like my grandfather used to say, I get your drift.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're gonna open this up, and I believe we got a couple of gentlemen that are sitting out that would like to come up and speak. Would you please? And this is for closing. This is for the closure of that street, and Mr. Mayor, you made it clear. Yes, so state your name and your address, and we'll be ready to roll.
My name is Ed Soha, and my address is, I work for the downtown Shreveport Hotel. I was brought in May. I live here in Shreveport, 4423 Cresswell Avenue. I'm very encouraged by what I just heard and the support.
I'm sorry, I don't want to stop you, but I see you keep looking over to the mayor.
Okay.
And we got his drift, and because he doesn't have a vote, you see these people that you have up here, they're the ones that you need to convince.
Okay, thank you. Let me get like this. I'm hand out kind of a little cheat sheet of what I'm talking about, and I've got some supporting documents on just the state tax that we've paid previously, the city tax, the parish tax, and what we're currently contributing now. And there is a tremendous difference between when the hotel is a Holiday Inn and the current situation is the downtown Shreveport Hotel. I was asked to come here in May to help the owners and to help with the rebranding of the hotel with the Holiday Inn. I was a former executive in Marriott. I ran a brand for them, one of their brands. So I'm very used to how brands work. We also built the brand that we sold to Hyatt, which is now called Hyatt House. And I was senior vice president of that organization. So I'm very familiar with working with franchisees and how that whole system works. This particular hotel began to lose market share when the new hotels in Bossier City, across the river, began to open. And there was now an option. They would prefer to be where we are. We get calls every day, when are you going to be a Holiday Inn again? The demand for it to be a Holiday Inn is very, very substantial. Holiday Inn wants to see it become a Holiday Inn. But people, that train, we have eliminated the actual sound of the tracks because it comes around a bend 30 feet from our property line behind the hotel. That is really close. And it comes around a bend before it crosses Lake Street. We have put a complete new exterior on the hotel that soundproofs that portion of it, as well as putting in the highest quality soundproofing windows. We've done everything possible. I will say that I was sitting over there, so I didn't see which council member was actually talking. We have...
Councilman Sam Jenkins, the good-looking fellow on the end with the
Hi,
big
Mr.
tie.
Jenkins. How are you, sir? We hear that complaint continually. It is like if right now I was talking and someone was to walk up behind you with a foghorn at a football game and push that button, you come right out of your sleep. There's nothing that we can reasonably do to eliminate the sound of the horn. The lost revenues are approximately $300,000 a year to the city. And I am here to verify that we are, as an owner of that hotel, we are 100% committed to paying 30 to 50% of the costs that are related for these railroad crossings. We don't expect the city to bear it. We expect to do our share. It is that difference of income. 4.5 million was the income of that hotel that we paid taxes on. We had a very good clientele coming to that hotel that would want to stay, spend money, go shopping, visit other restaurants, all in the surrounding area around the hotel. So we bring in currently we would bring in approximately 200 people a night into the market looking for places to eat, places to shop. Not only that, I have seen some of the work being done on the surrounding area where the old rail yards used to be. Some of those shops, they're opening up as restaurants and some antique stores. Everyone in the downtown market would benefit from having a Holiday Inn there. One of the other difficulties for the owner is that about every 7 years, all your hotel brands, they come out with what's called a new PIP, which is a performance improvement plan based upon the market's competition. If it's Holiday Inn or IHG hotels, they look at Courtyard, they look at Hilton, and they say, what are the new innovations that they are doing? And this is what anybody that wants to become a franchise today needs to do. Because of the number of complaints that they were receiving, the hotel fell below any acceptable customer service standard, and the brand's name was pulled. They fell into a whole new PIP cycle where the requirements to renovate the hotel, maybe just put the skin on, a number of other things, didn't happen. They are literally making them become a new hotel. They are taking into account the historic value of the building. But in terms of sprinkler systems, life safety issues, we have a modern hotel in every single way. And actually, it's a much safer hotel than it's ever been. So we're just really seeking that support. We want to do our part in financially contributing to the building of those railroad crossings. And we can easily do that, and the profits will be there for us to do that well before the 2-year mark. So I'm just very thankful for what I've heard today in terms of the study. We're just asking for your support, and if I can answer any questions for anybody.
Thank you. We have any questions?
Well, I know for a fact that train, it's in that banquet room with you. There's a banquet room down near the rear of that hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And when that train comes through and blows the horn, it sounds like it's in the room with you.
It does.
I could just have a detrimental effect on your existence there. So hopefully this council will take a very serious look at an existing business downtown that we should want to support. I know we want to bring new businesses in, but we need to do our part to help the businesses that are here also. So I have a great concern about this decision we need to make.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Can I ask just real quickly, I just want to get a little bit better understanding about, so you know, we're talking that it would take a couple of years to get the crossing that's necessary to make the horn stop blowing. But, you know, say this action was taken, what would follow? What, you know, from Holiday Inn, what is the response? I mean, is this the final thing they're waiting on, and then all of a sudden the brand comes right back and that's a guarantee, or is this
We're gonna get the-
process ongoing? Like, if you
We
could
are going to
explain
get the brand back, I would say, within the next 6 to 7 weeks. That's been my job, is to get that hotel rebranded. Our greatest concern will be the continued customer complaints of the horn, that, again, it will fall below that satisfactory level, and there'll be nothing, they'll remove the brand once again. We will be a better hotel for it, but approximately 60 to 65% of our business at a much higher price point will disappear from the hotel. That's pretty much will happen, and I give us maybe 90 days before they give us a correction order to come up with yet another solution, and unless we literally block make it a windowless hotel, I don't know what else we can do. So that's pretty much what would happen. It would be another death cycle for the hotel that we've been trying to pull it out of, and we have. Plus, we also will be employing approximately another 50 employees over what we are today.
Okay, thank you very much. Your presentation has been very to the point and very professional.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Did your other owner want to say anything? Right here? Yeah. Did you? Okay. All right, we have two other people who are not really related to the ownership. I believe we have Mr. Ed. Oh, that was you. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, he's part of the ownership. Let me see. We have Mr. Craig B. Huh?
I'm related to owner.
Right. Okay, thank you. We appreciate you coming down. Okay, Mr. Craig B. Lee, would you come forward? No, this is on Lake Street, road closed. And then we'll come to the other side as soon as Mr. Lee, Mr. Lee.
Craig Lee, 1035 Eustis Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. Want to first off thank the administration. This has been ongoing now for quite some time. I stepped to the city about a year and a half ago, as the owners had talked to us. We had moved the Tuesday morning breakfast to the downtown hotel, formerly the Holiday Inn, back in 2008. And we had been there up until this year. And when they lost their brand name, which is very significant, as the gentleman just got through displaying to you guys, the owners had, I inquired what had happened, and they showed me the information that had come in from Holiday Inn's assessment of the hotel, and that was the number one issue. I put together a letter and submitted it to the administration, Mr. Westerman, and I got to thank Mr. Westerman, because at first I thought they weren't doing anything, because I'm like, what's taking so long? So now I see with that type of in-depth presentation, there was a lot of information that he presented, so I want to thank them for a great presentation. Brother Corbin, you asked a great question, how long has the tracks been there? And so we're talking about 1875, Mr. Westerman said, so of course a lot has changed on that corner. The one thing that the gentleman didn't bring up is that this same group, Jeff, you had mentioned the Chateau, this same group owns the Chateau. They own the Holiday Inn, the Chateau, and the Marriott Courtyard over in Bossier. So these are serious groups of business owners that are paying significant tax revenues to the city. That's why I thought it was very important that we step to the forefront and assist them. The second thing that they told me was that they were interested in participating in defraying the cost of the crossing. So that was unusual. So I said, well, I know the city would be totally on point with that. So it was good to hear Mr. Westerman talks about the state's participation as well as the owner's participation and the city's participation from that standpoint. We've lost revenues on the hotel, tax revenues. They've lost business revenues. And as a byproduct of that, a lot of people lost jobs. If you're familiar with going down there, they cut their staff tremendously. They had to start having people do housekeeping and working in the kitchen. They have the best buffet on Fridays in the city, and they've been shut down because they've been putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into the hotel. Now, I know there's a counter argument, which I wouldn't be able to understand, because even though this particular closure would impact a small segment of businesses down there, it's very small. You're just talking about rerouting traffic for a couple of years based on what Mr. Westerman said. And from that standpoint, I am totally in favor. Our Tuesday morning breakfast group, the National Institute for Community Empowerment, which is our 501c3 that hosts the Tuesday morning breakfast group, we are definitely in favor of the road closure as specified in the presentation that Mr. Westerman laid out. And I hope that you guys look favorably upon the request. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Lee before he goes to his seat? If not, Mr. Lee, we thank you. Is it anyone else that did not get an opportunity to fill a slip out that's in favor of the closure? If not, then we will look at persons who are in favor, who's in opposition of the closure. You can come up how you have planned, wanted. Okay.
Chairman, Council, Mayor, thank you for letting us have this opportunity to speak on this issue. I'm here to share a little bit of perspective on the situation I only became aware of recently as we've just kind of been processing the idea that this road would be closed. It's a bit of a shock to us because the Times been there since 1969, decided to locate there because of the strategy of the arteries and the way we could move both efficiently with our employees as well as deploy product and have customers come and be able to get to us conveniently. That has worked out very well for many years. And then recently, we made the decision to spend about $15 million to locate additional investment on that same street, again, because of the strategic location that and the arteries provide. And in that picture of what's going on as you look at what you might do to help one business, there could be detrimental effects of closing that road to the efficiency and convenience to the other businesses on that road, which some other folks may speak to. But I ask you to think about this and vote this down for more study potentially. So I've only found about this recently and kind of processing what would be the impact. It could be significant to all the businesses on the road, and as a property manager, that's important. What I failed to do that I should have done is tell you I'm general manager and executive editor of the Times located at 222 Lake Street. And so I know we know each other, so I stepped over that and I apologize.
You didn't give us your name either for the record.
Alan English. Thank you. So I appreciate your consideration of this, the idea that our business is located there and we foresee this being detrimental to our business. We need to give it some more thought and some more study. But again, we located there because of the arteries and because of the strategy that we deployed and many investments we've made over the years. And I think a lot of businesses have decided to locate where they are, knowing what they're getting into. And as you buy property and make more investment, that's a consideration you make about the challenges you have before you. And as businesses change, as locations change, you again make those decisions based on what's around you. And for us, locating downtown and the ability to move efficiently around was a key piece of our decisions to be there. and a key piece of decisions we'll be making as we look forward. So we consider that artery at this juncture in time to be real key to us, and I just want you to know that. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Next, you all can come up as you.
I'm Mike Monarch, President of Monarch Realty and Management. Mr. Mayor, Chairman, and fellow council, our family owns the office buildings across from the downtown hotel where our Business First Bank is. And I want you to know I am in favor of the property returning to be a Holiday Inn. Because after we purchased that building last year, we were drove up one day and saw the new sign that said Downtown Hotel. And so we were very disappointed that it lost its franchise. And I was very pleased to see they've been spending a bunch of money on that property to get it rebranded as a Holiday Inn. One thing I do have, am curious, I don't think I've ever seen that train go more than about 5 miles per hour. And so it's beyond me why they would even need to blow a horn on a train that goes that slow. And so I don't understand why they even need to blow a horn. But maybe there's a federal law against it or something, but it didn't make any sense. And one thing that I am a little bit concerned about is what guarantee do we have that that road will be opened up in 2 years or the crossing installed? Because sometimes the roads are closed and then they never reopen, you know. And so I am glad to hear they're participating in the cost and so forth. So those are some concerns. I am interested in it being rebranded as a Holiday Inn, and because I think that helps with our property values. And but I'm a little bit concerned with the road being closed because of traffic and so forth, because a lot of the roads downtown are one-way streets, and so it's a little more complicated to get around downtown. So I'm against the closure, but I am in favor of the property being rebranded. So, you know, I don't know how that. I understand that they're going to get rebranded anyway. They're just afraid of losing it over the horn. But I do have a question that I don't understand why they need to even blow the horn on a train that moves that slow.
I thought I heard Mr. Westerman say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see him back there. I thought I heard you say that there's a requirement that trains on grade level passings have to blow the horn. Is that?
Yeah, either federal or state, I can remember. He said yesterday.
We're going to let Robert quote it chapter and verse.
Hey, Robert. Good. Long time. There are federal requirements that train any active crossing is either one by signal or horn, or by two by lights and horn. But it is a requirement at any grade crossing that they perform that action.
Are there lights at that crossing? Or
No, sir, they're not at this time.
And that's what they're talking about putting up.
Well, that's part of the additional cost.
Yeah.
It's because that crossing of that track system does not have any interconnect system up and downstream from that track in order to perform the electrical operations that are necessary to actuate the signals.
that may be the reason why they have to blow the horn, because there's no lights.
Right.
Exactly.
Let me see if Sam, because Dale, you and Cedric won't be here in 2 years, and Sam, you that poll that was run by who? Was it Channel 12 or somebody? I think it was just a lot of hot propaganda. And Sam, you got as good a chance to be here as anybody. And I know in 2 years, when you get everything put that in, you can give him a response.
Well, I think the poll was conducted by Bozo the Clown, if you want my opinion.
Yeah, that's probably who did it.
But that's my personal opinion.
That's all right. That's good.
No, I'm not saying the people who commissioned the poll. I'm saying the poll was conducted by Bozo the Clown, if you want my personal opinion. He did ask a question about what guarantees would be in place, that, I think it said in the 2 years.
That it would be reopened.
Now, certainly now, if the city council passes an ordinance to close a road, a city council could also come back and pass an ordinance to open a road if the goals, are not being achieved. But I would assume, would there be some agreement here about the time frame to get this done, or does it go that far, or?
And again, when I say 2 to 3 years, I'm speaking for several organizations.
I understand.
Okay?
I understand.
That is what we were explained to by the Federal Railroad Administration and by the state, that it would take approximately that time frame.
Well, I mean, just know that the council can certainly come in and pass an ordinance and say, the goals of this ordinance have not been met. Do we open the road back up? Yes. Has that happened? Yes. I think since I've been on the council, we've come back and overrode a prior ordinance that, when the goals simply were not met.
And Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Chairman, if I may, one of the things that's generally done, and Ms. Scott maybe can speak to this, anytime we're dealing with an intergovernmental situation, we generally go into a cooperative endeavor agreement. So I would think there'd be additional agreements and paperwork, should the council pass that, to solidify all these promises and commitments that are being made. So that's ordinarily what we would do if we had any kind of intergovernmental, particularly where people are putting up money and making commitments. So there's a possibility it could be covered in a cooperative endeavor agreement.
Thank you very much.
I would think that, what it was passed by the council could be repealed by the council.
And you could probably put conditions on it.
Right, this is experience that I've had.
I might,
being
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I could maybe clarify that.
Okay.
You're not going to be closing and abandoning this road.
Right.
You're
That's
keeping the right-of-way.
That's right.
And you're just authorizing Public Works to restrict vehicular access.
That's right.
So basically, I think it would be within the city's discretion at any time.
That's true.
To close it or open it back up.
Open it back up again. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And Julie, could I ask, does that distinguish it from the closures that were done in conjunction with Union Pacific for the Shreve Park? Because those were in fact closed and abandoned.
Right, that's the distinction here.
Okay.
All right, next.
Yes, sir. My name is Bill Pogue. I own the properties on Lake Street between Marshall and Spring, 315 through 413, and I just sold this last year the properties from 415 to 425. So when I purchased that block in 2007, I was well aware that the railroad was there and that they had horns on their trains, and I assume that the Holiday Inn, when they built their property, knew that as well. I'm not saying that it isn't annoying, it's just part of it. And I don't really see the point in closing a road for that one particular reason. I do understand that they would like to have a no-blow zone, and I agree with that. I'd like to see it come back to Holiday Inn. I like the idea of having the proper equipment installed for the temporary gates and so forth, so that it can be a no-blow zone. But I do not support closing it in the meantime while we wait. The reason for that is we get a lot of traffic comes from both north and south Clyde Fant, from the Casino District and from South Shreveport, that come up, take the turn down there to come toward us. Now, my family owns the properties in there, including the Bayou Some Junk Cafe, the tattoo school, the martial arts school, and my associates own the Eye Architecture and Agora Borealis, the art market. I'm speaking kind of for them because they're not here. They do not support this as well. It would hurt our traffic, which we need. We put a lot of money. That whole project's around a $6 million project. And this kind of puts us, we're not big shooters by any means, and it really puts us at some kind of risk in our new businesses we're trying hard to build. And I do not want to restrict that. There's also, as the other gentleman, Mike, pointed out, if you close that, it kind of overburdens some of the other alternative routes. A lot of them are one-ways. If it can be worked out where this no-blow zone, and the gates can be expedited a little bit. I know that's a big, long process, but I just really think that'd be the best way to go. In the meantime, maybe control some of the traffic through there, but, you know, closing it for two years, waiting for red tape, I just don't support that.
All right. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council and Mayor. Barry Rochelle, 3314 Erie Drive, broker owner of River Cities Realty, and I'm here representing Mr. Pogue. I just kind of want to bring up, I'm going to deal with the points that were brought up here. And I don't know if this is time to ask questions also, but there was a request made to do this. Who made the request?
I'm turning over to the administration.
We have had dialogue with the ownership of this property about the problem that the train represents, the fact that it would ultimately result in the loss of their brand or their flag, rather, and resulting in potentially the further deterioration of the property. This is our effort to try and be responsive to a local business owner.
Okay, well.
And if I heard it right, seems like Mr. Craig Lee said he made a request to have this property.
Well, and I just, going along those same lines is if it were closed, and this gentleman right here that has invested close to $2 million, if he came down and he requested for it to be opened up, then would the city council and the mayor and everybody else involved turn around and say, we need to address Mr. Pogue's property down here and open it back up? We need to look at this as two ways. If we're going to look at it as we're going to close it, even temporarily, we'd have to look at it the opposite direction and say, well, let's just open it up because he's asked for it. I think we need to take that into consideration. There were some other things that were brought up, and let me state emphatically, I have no problem. The owners of the properties and all the investors that are involved down there and the business owners have no problem with there being arms there, none whatsoever. Stop the horns, hotel wins, everybody wins, it's a little bit safer. No, but to close the road for even in any period of time is not acceptable. We're saying that one business is more important than another. This man, he poured his heart and soul, and so if other people down there buying other property down there, this man could go broke. He knew the railroad tracks were there. The people that own the hotel, they knew the track was there when they purchased that hotel. It would have been important for them to look at those details in front of purchasing the hotel, not after the fact, and then make their problem these people's problem. I just don't agree with that. From I also heard, this is more of a nuisance than it is a safety issue. Past 12 months, no accidents at that railroad crossing, none whatsoever. From hearing the fire chief speak, he said that if it were closed, it could cause problems for them and how they stage and how they set up for events that are downtown. So I think we need to take that in consideration he did state that it would cause problems. That's what they used to stage. And I understand the other comments about saying that the train is the problem. I also heard the attorney representing that owner state that the competition, other hotels being built, are having an impact on their business. Well, that's the definition of competition. The train didn't do it. It's the competition that's impacting their business. I hate it. I really don't. I wish there were crossing arms there. And all of my owners are perfectly fine with having crossing arms there. The last thing I want to address is, and I want to make it clear, we do not want that street blocked, not temporarily, not for a week, not for 2 months, not 2 years or 3 years at all. The impact on these people's investment down there, and choosing that location, and in working with the Downtown Development Authority, who also vested in this property and the renovations down here, you know, of revitalizing Shreveport, he put his money where his mouth is. And now he's also gotten other people to put their money where their mouth is to the tune of another $1 million on top of what he spent. So there's a great deal of people vested in this area down there. It was noted, and I think it's a great thing that the hotel owners want to contribute. If y'all are going to go that route and they're going to do it, I'm in real estate, and I'm going to tell you, we call, everybody's familiar with an escrow account. If they're going to put their money into this, then it needs to be escrowed up front. Not a pig in a poke, and we're going to wait and say, okay, we're going to do this, and then sometime later on after the fact, they turn around and you don't get the money. So, again, we're all perfectly fine with the crossing arms, but to say that one business is more important than another business, and then change the rules after we've all been playing by the same rules, to change the rules in the middle of the game, I think we would all tell our children, and being on the school board, I know what teachers tell all of those children, it wouldn't be fair. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
What was the, did we have a traffic count between, I guess that would be Clyde Fant Parkway and Spring Street? What was the traffic?
2,500 cars a day.
1,200 one direction, 1,300 the other.
That comes through that section. Is there a traffic count for between Spring and Marshall Street? I believe this gentleman's business is located between Spring and Marshall.
That traffic count was performed between Clyde Fant Parkway and Commerce Street mid-block in order to determine the actual traffic that's traveling on Lake Street.
We don't have one from Spring West.
Okay. So we don't know how much of that actually flows into the area between Spring and Marshall Street.
Exactly.
We'd have to do additional traffic counts, yes, sir.
For the sake of the record, Robert, what are those actual numbers? I know council members mentioned them back and forth, but...
The actual count was 2,562 vehicles a day.
We don't know how much of that flows actually down into...
No, sir, I don't have a division of how much of that vehicular traffic continues all the way to McNeil Street or Marshall Street or Spring and Market. I don't have that count exactly.
Robert, was there anything done that would indicate the implications of those 2,500 vehicles no longer having access?
No, sir, we did not. We would have to evaluate both the intersection at Lake and Market and Lake at Spring Street to make that determination.
Robert, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no, we have somebody else, Alan, and then we'll come back to you when we get over on that side, okay?
I'm Ben Walker with Walker Alley and Associates, 315 Fannin Street in Shreveport, and I work with two of the property owners here on their properties, and they have made their points, but I just wanted to bring up one thing. I was a former tenant in the Spring Plaza office building, and I'm currently handling the leasing for that property. And one of the great advantages of that building for businesses is the access to all areas of the Arklatex, because you can get on I-20, you can go to 49, you could go out the Parkway to South Shreveport or North Shreveport, and that was a great advantage of running a business out of that location. And I wanted to just point that out, that's a good, in marketing that property, that's one of the things I use to market the property. The other thing, as I pointed out in the session yesterday, the Holiday Inn was developed in the 1970s. It was very successful for many years, and I know there's more competition now, but there's other ways to address your marketing concerns than shutting down access to all the property owners along Lake Street.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Charles Chaniara, and I'm representing Holiday Inn owner as well as Best Western Chateau Suite owner. Thank you, Council and Mayor Sahab, for giving me chance to speak on behalf of Holiday and Best Western. Actually, my one question is, this gentleman, one Mr. Mike and one Mr. Allen, I have one question to them. Actually, if we didn't get Holiday Inn flag, then we are not able to pay even $100,000 per annum sale tax to the city and Caddo Parish. So in that case, city and Caddo Parish losing at least for both of the hotel about $1 million sale tax and occupancy tax. So usually, basically, we are indirectly contributing to city every year about $1 million. So if you permit me, can I ask him how much they are paying sale tax currently to city and occupancy?
Let me say this. You can present the question, but in this public hearing, he can or he cannot answer.
Okay, that is correct, but I'm just, I want to just let him know.
Okay.
And also, I don't see any adverse effect to their business if we got Holiday Inn flag. I don't see any adverse effect to their business. Their business will not be affected due to if we have a Holiday Inn.
Well, now, when he comes up, he can answer that if he wants to. If he doesn't want to answer it, it's
So, but
it's not a public hearing where they would have to, you don't have to answer any of their questions, and he doesn't have to answer any of your questions if they don't want to. So now I think they heard your question, and if one of them want to come up and answer it, we'll give him an opportunity to do
So
it.
actually, yeah, as a, on behalf of the both owners, Best Western Chateau Suite owner and Holiday Inn Downtown owner, I am requesting to support us to closing, because if we don't have a Holiday Inn, city also losing the revenue every year. It's a very big amount of the sale tax. It's for hotel room revenue as well as restaurant and other. So it is benefited to us as well as city.
Okay. Alan, Barry, either one of you all want to come up and respond to his question?
It's irrelevant.
Okay.
And also one of the property owners, they also indirectly benefited. So if we have a non-branded hotel, their property value also will be less. If they are close to the Holiday Inn hotel, their property value will be also high. So they are losing indirectly their equity as well if we have a non-branded, very small category hotel.
Okay, Jeff, did you want to respond to?
No, I had, what did I have? Another question. I think it was more for Robert.
Need Robert to come forward.
Well, now I'm forgetting. I don't think maybe somebody else had clicked. I didn't say it, but I was starting to come up with a question. Something that you had said reminded me, but I didn't have it formed yet, so I apologize.
Okay, I think Mike has a quick question.
Just the ownership group that you represent, how long have you owned this property and the Best Western?
Okay, Holiday Inn we have since 2003, so about 11, 12 years.
2003.
Yeah, and Best Western, we have a partnership. We were minor partner since 2005, but now we are the major owner.
And when did you become the major owner?
Last year, February.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And you may be able to answer this question.
Okay.
But this came to me, and this might be the stupidest question, but I figure if you don't ask, you don't know. I'm just curious about what other alternatives might have been explored. I mean, Ron mentioned earlier about along the interstate you see the sound barrier walls. I mean, hey, what other ideas have been explored to dampen that sound? Is that something, I don't know who can answer that best, but just curious to see if there's any
other option or other alternate?
What's that?
What is your question, sir?
If there are any other methods to diminish the sound of the horn, if there's any other alternatives that we think could dampen that sound during the interim time period.
I think Ed spoke to that when he said the soundproof windows.
Yeah, we
coating on
we replaced the windows. We installed soundproof window and exterior wall entirely. But still it didn't work well because rail track is very close to the hotel. It's very close actually. In one west corner it is about just 10 feet from the hotel wall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alan, I think you had your hand up a few minutes ago. Now, did you want to make another response and then?
Yes, just Alan English. I just wanted to make a statement toward the volume counts being only somewhat relevant because the customers for the business, it's finding out who's spending the money and how many of those customers come that way as much as it is in analyzing total numbers on the effect on the business. And for us, there's particular peak and higher and lower times, and that is, a consideration in volume counts. Sometimes it's a few people doing strategic moves at a quick pace or at a different, in a different way than it is in just strictly volume. So I just want to say that I think there's other things to study here, both alternatives and what the impact would be, that this is, there's other things to think about that might inform this decision. And I don't want to delay the vote. I just think we should think about all the possibilities and try to help all the businesses at once through this process rather than just one moment that really feels, for me, just a surprise to me in the last couple of weeks. And I haven't had time to process, what does that really mean? And it could mean a lot to my property value. And whether or not I know where to strategically change, release, stay in the location, or move based on your decision. So I'd like to know more.
I thought that decision had been made.
We have not decided to leave downtown. We've decided to sell one of our 2 buildings there. We have a significant operation downtown. We have a significant number of employees, about 100 employees inside that main building. And where they locate, as a result, could be adjacent buildings. We could release from the new owner. We could move to a different part. But we will continue to have a significant part of our operation downtown due to that $16 million investment. That building's not going. That part of our business is staying downtown.
That being the printing?
The printing press and all the employees and all the facilities that have to do with circulation and distribution.
So the other building is not for sale, is what you're saying?
No, the printing press is not for sale.
No. I know you just built the printing press. I'm talking about the other building across from the Chateau.
Our main building is for sale if it sells. We're making a decision right now based on its ability to sell at a particular property value. You make this decision, you may tie my hands, you may affect the property value, may affect what decisions I make about being downtown, and downtown being friendly and particularly interested in my strategic operation. So I'd like to find out if this council is interested in me being able to find out more about how that might impact me. And my immediate response is that this decision is going to be detrimental to our operation and to our property value and to my decision about, are you thinking about the times, long-time business owner downtown? Been nice to have a conversation about this and do some thinking and studying before getting to this point with our big business downtown, millions and millions of dollars flowing through for the benefit of commerce in the city. So we're really interested in making sure all benefit.
Part of the point of this process is to make this a public, open process.
I know, I'm
It's
shocked.
a public hearing.
I'm shocked that we would close that road and not have a significant discussion and give us some significant time to study the impact. My immediate response, vote on it today, vote it down, because I'm telling you, I feel, and not just feel, just the analysis and the strategy behind why we located where we did and the decisions we've made thus far have been based on the arteries available to us at that location. A future business at that location is going to be very interested in being able to get to Clyde Fant and back. That is so convenient.
But, there was no Clyde Fant when you guys originally located.
No, but the arteries that developed over time, and the artery with the decisions to stay as long as we have, the decisions to put a printing press plant in that core piece is right on that artery line. So, been nice a couple years ago, we were talking about putting that printing press to know that you guys wanted to close that road down. That may have affected our decision about where to put that printing press. And now you shut it down what impact will that have? Can I work around it for a couple of years? I don't really know at this juncture, because my property value is going to be impacted. I believe that the person deciding to potentially buy that property is going to think, what are my advantages and disadvantages? Is there another property downtown that I should get? And I would suggest to you that take me out of it. I'm a person looking to invest in a hotel downtown. I'm going to buy some property, and I know that there's a railroad there that has a horn that it does. And you know what? I just advanced my investment knowing there was a horn there. So they decided to move forward with their investment in that hotel with the horn there. I have business that is taking advantage of the artery system. And so that decision is just something to think about. I've been a part of downtown. Our business has been part of downtown for more than 100 years. So just ask you to take that into account, that being downtown is a great place for businesses to be. We're thinking about that next move for ourselves, and will that be a good place again? There's a lot of property right there on Lake Street, not just our building. There's a parking lot that somebody might develop on, a big parking lot that is for sale as well. And we'll decide to stay or move, or what we do based on the opportunities downtown.
So what is that's actually for sale?
The Times building and the parking lot across the street, okay? That's what's for sale today. As you know, you get an investor to come in who will make some kind of investment idea based on the available property, and we will take into account their bid, and we'll make a decision based on what we do based on that. Will we go build the suit for ourselves? Will we lease? Will we move? Will we work with the new owner? Will they build something for us? We don't know. We know we need to see investment in downtown and in that building. And we believe the best move right now is to sell it. I will be making more decisions going forward based on what the opportunities are. And right now, with that artery, the world's our oyster. Once that artery is closed, it closes down some ideas.
It's not much of an oyster with a day rate hotel across the street from it.
If the single issue is that horn on that hotel, I'd be surprised. I'm not in the hotel business, I don't know, so I'm not gonna, but I'd be surprised. There are always more issues than just one single one usually affecting the economy of a hotel. So consider that, please, as well. Just like there are more issues in my business than just this artery. But this is a surprise to me.
We also live in a Yelp and TripAdvisor world. It's probably pretty easy to go online and make that determination of exactly what those issues are.
I know a lot about competition, maybe not the hotel business, but social media, everything, it's changing the way we operate. You close down this artery today, the hotel will have a different issue next day. I've got issues. I'm glad you're open to listening and thinking about the issues for that hotel. I would like to see it prosper as well. I came to you today in concern for my business and for the operation there and for the city as a whole, because I believe that open artery is a convenience for many people who not just do business, but they love that little quick turnaround. They love to get to Clyde Fant. They love the way that it's all set up. And for the citizens, it's a pretty big convenience. But I just ask you, I got up here because of the volume count. I just think there's a lot more to this than just saying we're going to close it down for that horn. And it's going to impact people in ways we do not yet know, and that's the unknown. That's why I'm not standing up here saying, let's not, it needs more analysis. The businesses have made decisions on that road since, in the last few years. People have bought properties, invested in them, and made their decisions based on that being an open artery. I think they deserve a little bit more time to analyze their own audiences, us analyze the impact on our business, and that this needs to be a longer process. And in the meantime, let's get sealed on the deal to go ahead and put the arms in either way. That sounds like we need to be doing that anyway. So let's go ahead and put that act together. Just my thoughts. Like I said, I hadn't had a lot of time to think about this with all the things going on in my business world. But I wanted to come down here today and just tell you, seems just targeted.
Before you go to your seat, Alan, because this is, and I like it. You are a great communicator. Mr. Mayor, since this legislation was brought to council by the administration, you want to give us your position on it at this particular time, and and Alan, if you want to respond to it, you can, but, you know, just kind of keep it directly, and I understand what you're saying, because you got a lot of money invested, so I want the mayor to, the legislation was brought to the council by the administration. Now, if it had been brought by one of the council members, then we would ask him to make a decision on, you know, what he wanted, if he wanted to go forward with it, or if he wanted to postpone it for further study. But if he wants to go forward with it, I probably think we're going to vote on it today, unless some council member makes a motion to postpone. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, we
But
talked
hold on just
yesterday
a minute,
about
Mr. Mayor.
postponing it,
Huh?
but yesterday we discussed postponing it, but maybe there's been a new change of sentiment, so.
I want, let's, since the administration brought the legislation to the council,
Well,
let's get your point of view.
And Mr. Chairman, your statement, it lines up with the question that was asked by Mr. Rochelle, and that is, you know, who complained about this, or who initiated this?
Right.
And I want him to know, and everybody else here as well, is that we believe that it's our responsibility as the administration of the city of Shreveport to have an ear for the business community in this city that brings to us an issue, a problem, a challenge, and to work with them to come up with an effective strategy and scenario by which we go about trying to address that problem. Now, for anyone who does not believe that this is a problem, then I don't think that you're actually dealing in reality, because the truth of the matter is that this is a very different market from a hotel standpoint than it was in the 1970s. It's a different market than it was 10 years ago. And these are properties that are at the front door of downtown Shreveport. As you come off of I-20, you end up on Spring Street and Lake Street, worst intersection in the city, most accidents that we have anywhere else in the city, but it also happens to be where you have two significant hotel properties located, properties that are in decline. And that decline can be attributed to whatever number of reasons that you want to attribute to it. I can tell you personally, just as you heard from Councilman Sam Jenkins, and you may hear from others, the train and the horn associated with the train is one of the major problems with this property. You go on and you look at all of the online reviews and all the impact and feedback that these folks get, that's what you will hear. That's why you hear of people going to other places, whether that's the casino hotels, whether that's the Hilton, whether that's to Bossier, or wherever it may be, they are going to other places. These properties are still there. The brand has been lost. And if there's not something done that gives it the ability to be able to elevate itself, then you're going to have the downtown equivalent of the Royal Inn right there across the street from your building. Now, I don't have a vote. All I have is a voice.
That's right.
But I'm saying that we've got a problem and a challenge here. There's a process in front of us to try and address it. Now, there can be some immediate relief. This gentleman says, whether we end up voting on this today or not, they believe that they're going to get the flag back within the next several weeks. Is that correct? Now, bottom line is, as soon as that flag comes back, I guarantee you, now there'll be a new mayor, there'll be new members of this council and what have you, but you're going to have the same complaints that come in that result in those TripAdvisor, Yelp, and all those other things that we pick up these devices and we look at before we make a decision about where we're going to book, where we're going to end up having our convention, that will end up resulting in the Holiday Inn folks, yet again, sending these folks a list of issues, problems, and challenges and saying, unless you can resolve those, we're going to come in and take our flag again, and we're right back where we are.
Sure.
We're here today trying to problem solve. Do we have great excitement about the investment that has been made along the western portion of Lake Street? Yes, we do. Do we see that as a part of the great news about what's happening in downtown Shreveport? Absolutely. Do we want to try and figure out how to do this in a way that ends up not costing those folks any loss or diminishment of their investment? Absolutely. Do we want to see you guys there continuing to have a presence in downtown Shreveport? Without question. But there are no easy solutions to any of the issues and challenges that we face. I tell folks, streets won't fix themselves. right? They won't. Isn't that right, Sammy? No, they won't. If Sammy ever sees that happen, he's running the other way. I know that, all right? You know, the sewer lines, they won't fix themselves. You know, we have to decide that we're going to do those things. Every one of those comes with some positives and some negatives. The challenge here is how do we manage to be able to hope that the good Lord gives us some aspect of Solomon so we can make some decision that ends up being in the best interest of the city of Shreveport. Is it in the best interest of the city for us to allow the further deterioration of these properties, to sit here and have folks to call the mayor's office and call council members complaining about the fact that these guys struggle to keep that plastic downtown Shreveport hotel properly situated on that sign? I don't think so. Does it do us any good to see these guys end up seeing their per night rate continue to have to go lower and lower and lower because they can't manage to be able to draw folks in? I don't think so. Does it do us any good to continue to see the grass around the chateau, you know, untrimmed, you know, gates unpainted, you know, paint peeling? I don't think so. And so how do we balance that? Again, it'd be wonderful to have that uncle come in, write us that $700,000 check, and we say, guys, give us about 6 months, you know, we'll get our congressman and our senator to fast track it at the federal level, and we'll all have this done by festival season next year. You know, but as Mr. Shine said earlier, that uncle died. And no one's coming to save us but us. And so the challenge we have is for those of us here today to figure out what can we ultimately end up doing. As much as I appreciate and champion. In fact, I had to call my good friend, our architecture, when they opened. I ended up being out of town the day of the opening, so I wasn't able to be there. So I had to call them and let them know this past July how proud I am to see what's happening down there. I'm still looking forward to getting down to the cafe and to see the positive things there. But I don't think it'll end up being very positive for that investment if we end up at the eastern end of the block with the downtown equivalent of what those of us who live on the north side of town have to deal with in the Royal Inn and some of these other types of properties that have taken that dip. And guys, that's where we're going. And you don't want that dip coming to downtown.
I too want to see downtown thrive even more, and we've seen some good things happening. So I appreciate your focus and attention on taking care of or looking to take care of this issue, and potentially it'd be a positive. But nothing says that fixing it is going to fix all the things in the hotel competition that could impact them in the future. You have people who've invested in that area. We at this current juncture see it as a detriment to us, and ask you to weigh that with other possible alternatives. And there's been ideas we threw around, we don't even know if they're possible, that that might be discussed for a different type of ordinance. There could be times of day, there could be different things that we could talk to the railroad about, I don't know. And I'll trust that you've explored everything you possibly could have thought of at this juncture. So to shut it down, shut that road down, it does seem like it would impact us and others.
Well, again, so as you heard Mr. Lee say, this is not something that has been brought newly to our doorstep. We have had the folks from the hotel, we've had folks who are supporters of the hotel, folks who make use of it. You know, we've had people who visited the city.
Yeah, and I look forward to that dialogue with the next administration on exactly what that impact could be or would be with us. And I think at this juncture, it's a surprise to be doing it right this minute to me. And I would like to have been involved in this past year of research maybe you've done to be able to do the same study and say, yeah, I think I can work it out. But right now, I don't have the luxury of time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Again, we get accused in government all the time of not being able to move at the speed of business. So it is interesting to hear someone in the private sector come in and say, oh, that bullet train government, slow yourself down because you're being too quick. And
you just said you weren't, though. You've been studying this for a while. You've been studying this for a while without us, is my point.
Well, we have been trying to figure out ways by which we could go about trying to take some action.
Without the stakeholders in the conversation until now.
Well, but now that's a part of the process that we're in the midst of.
Right, I just object.
To now say to come back and start that internal, because
I think that's
dialogue,
fast,
to turn that internal dialogue, because at this point you could end up, how big is that stakeholder group at this point?
I think I think a business that's on the road that's been there since 1969 and has been in this city for over 100 years would be a place to start. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
So to answer your question, Mr. Shine, we will defer to the wisdom of the council in terms of the time frame that you all are comfortable in dealing with and addressing the matter.
That's right.
We just feel comfortable in knowing that we have placed the matter out there so that everyone is fully apprised and aware of what is at stake in terms of this overall situation.
And Mr. Mayor, we appreciate that you communicate very, very effectively with the King's language, and we thank you. Let me say this before. Hold on, just 1 minute. Let me say this before you say that. And Mr. Lee, the reason why I'm calling on them, they have a vested financial in this public hearing. Well, I don't think you own the property down there. What? Huh? No, but you don't have a vested financial. These gentlemen do.
So they're the only one, people that put up money, the only one that speak?
Huh?
City of Shreveport.
I'm running this show. When I get ready to get to you, I will. And when we come down to Tuesday morning breakfast, you run that show, and they'll speak whenever you do. I'm running the show. Let me and if anybody else who has a financial vested interest in this,
Yeah, I do.
you don't own the property down there. If you do, wait a minute. We're not gonna have this. You and I are not gonna have no back and forth. In case the street is closed, you can almost guarantee that it will be open in 2 years. Either way this decision is made, somebody's going to agree with it, and somebody isn't going to agree with it. I think the mayor's point of view, and it's kind of my point of view, and I can't speak for other council members. And I understand how you feel, because you have a financial investment in it. I don't necessarily have a financial investment in it. Mr. Lee doesn't have one. He just bought a house maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and that's his financial investment in the city of Shreveport, and it's not down there. We don't want that property down there when you come off of Interstate 20 to be a big old empty building, because it doesn't look good for Shreveport.
I agree.
We didn't want your property to be an empty space when you come off of the interstate, because that's not good. We want to try to make a decision where everybody can benefit, everybody might have to give up something. And it's kind of our responsibility, and because it's the mayor's responsibility, number one. He's the, if you can say, the head coach. Mayor, you don't mind me making you head coach, do it?
Not at all, Mr. Sean.
Okay. To kind of look out for the growth of Shreveport and how downtown look and how other parts look. Sometimes we have to make decisions that are uncomfortable for some. So I want you to know that whatever decision is made, and I don't know, because I don't know how my colleagues are going to vote. The decision is not being made in order to make things uncomfortable for those of you who have an investment downtown Shreveport or anywhere, because when you have an investment of $6 million, Alan, what did you say the building was? How much?
$16 million in the last 4 years.
$16 million in the last 4 years. The only somebody that I know who could maybe have that kind of investment is the gentleman that's standing over there. I don't have that kind of money to invest downtown. So I want you to know that the decision that we make, it might be uncomfortable for some, but we're trying to make it in the best interest of Shreveport. I don't know whether it's going to be closed. I don't know whether it's going to be open. I don't know whether it's going to be postponed. But even if it's postponed, those who want the building, those who want the street closed, I don't think they're gonna probably move from that position. Those of you who do not want the street closed, I don't think you're gonna move from your position. The only thing that I can guarantee you is that in 2 years, we're gonna be working to get that street open again. The point that the mayor was making, and I kinda make the same thing, we just can't afford to have a big hotel downtown that's empty. And I know you all have a great financial investment in it. I don't know how much you all spent for that property. How much did you all spend on that property?
On that property, just for renovation, we spent 5 to 6 million.
Okay.
On the purchase product or the renovation?
Renovation. Purchase will be 25.
Renovations?
Yeah.
On the renovation?
Yeah,
That's
will be more than 25 million dollars. We have to, another hotel also, we paid about $500,000 spent.
Right.
For the Best West.
That's a big investment.
And also, this is, if you have people from outside enter in the Shreveport, they see non-franchise hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Budgeting or like.
I know, our office
Yes,
building's across the
that's
street.
just building for city also. You know, it's.
I had a question.
Let me step in at this point. We'll come back to, okay, go
I had
on
a
with the point
question.
that you were
I'm
making.
Mike Monarch, owner of the Springs Plaza office building across the street. Since y'all done the renovations, how much has it decreased the sound of the horn? The train?
Very, very negligible because intensity of the horn, it is very high.
Come closer to the microphone.
Come up closer to the mic. They can't.
Okay. After we replace the soundproof window, also intensity, because of the high decibel intensity of the horn sound, it didn't work well. So still we have a almost same amount of the complaint from customer who staying riverside. People like actually riverside view, but they hate because of the sound system.
Well, can I interject something here? I mean, I think we've been talking about this for a long time, and I think there's a few things that are very clear to me, is that one side of this discussion has been thinking about this and studying this and looking at this for quite some time. Another side of this discussion is relatively newer to this conversation and still seems to have a lot of questions. One thing that I think both have financial interests, both have a lot at stake. I think it, to me, sounds like a prudent action to allow these two parties an opportunity to discuss this, get some more questions answered. They may not change their minds. They may still all stand in the same place. But at least they will be well informed and they will have a better idea of what exactly is at stake for each of them. And maybe we can move through this discussion a little bit better. So to me, I think it would be an appropriate action to ask if the administration would be willing to facilitate a meeting between these parties, possibly also to include Shreveport, who is not here today, but I think also would probably have an opinion on this. Yeah. So that, I think, is something that I think is an appropriate way to follow up this discussion today, because otherwise it sounds even up at the podium there, y'all are asking each other questions. You clearly have questions to ask one another, and maybe we can facilitate a meeting where we can get...
Well, I will say this. As the property owner across the street from both the Chateau and the downtown hotel, I am very concerned, and the property owners there much desire that property be rebranded as a Holiday Inn and stay a Holiday Inn or some major franchise.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, it's beneficial to all property owners in the
area. Whatever that
takes,
takes,
disagreement on
we are interested in the hotel being a nice hotel. So,
just 1 minute. I'm gonna bring this to an end. We're gonna postpone this for 2 weeks, and we're gonna come back. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is the public hearing closed?
It is. The public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of any items to be added to the agenda.
Pretty sure
Do we have any public comments?
Okay, thank you, guys. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Ed, come up 1 minute.
Oh, no, that's the next section. That'll be under public comments. Having legislation. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so these will.
Can you take over?
Yeah. Okay, do we have any legislation to be added? Okay, then that brings us to public comments. If we could, I think we have 2 public comments here. If we could call up Marvin Muhammad.
Hold it, just before we call Marvin up, where is, Mr. Kirk? Is he still here?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
You want to step outside and get him, Mr. Chairman?
please. We want people to speak first who is directly involved with sickle cell. Ms. Bradford, you want to come up and say a word or two while we're waiting on Mr. Kirk? And Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Same thing, I want a public hearing come to begin on the issue that we just talked about. We want people who are financially concerned about this, because this is too important for Joe Blow or Henry Smith, who doesn't really pay much property tax, to be involved in, because these issues are very, very important. You know, this is not about what we're going to do, but this is very important. It's very important that we make sure that downtown, big hotel downtown, don't go empty. And we want to make sure we take care of other people who got property.
John, you say empty. What would be worse than empty would be occupied in the wrong way.
Well, that's true, but right.
You got it occupied the wrong way, you prefer for it to be empty.
Right. But if they don't get it occupied right, it's going to be empty, because people are not going to come when they don't feel safe.
But now that just means they just keep adjusting their market down.
That's exactly right. And we don't want that.
We don't.
Ms. Bradford, you and Mr. Kirk, because you all are directly involved in the sickle cell. And then we have people who want to speak who are not directly involved. But we want you all who are directly involved to speak first. Okay, Mr. Kirk.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'd like to first of all thank Honorable Mayor and Dale Sibley and all of their staff, and thank you and all of your staff. I want to go first to my council leader, member Sam Jenkins of District G, and I am Alvin Kirk, 3328 Lillian Street. I just thought about I need to put that on the record, don't I? Okay. And want to thank Congressman Jenkins for his conversation earlier today and his cooperation. And most of all, we want to thank Council Member Rose Wilson McCullough for following in her father's footsteps and having the guts to introduce this legislation. Okay. We are encouraging the members of the City Council to support the City Ordinance 42/278.1 to allow the sickle cell to have our annual fundraiser, Can Shake fundraiser, on the evening or the day of November 15th.
This is it right here.
There are several locations that are pointed out in the
Go ahead and refresh.
resolution. And rather than going through all of those, we just ask that you will support us, and we guarantee you that Mrs. Bradford, the board of directors, myself, and everyone will conduct ourselves as adult citizens and be very, very what you would be proud of here in the city of Shreveport. Again, we just want to thank Council Lady Rose McCullough, and I'm kind of getting distracted, but at any rate, we just want to encourage you to vote for this resolution.
And that's 206. Resolution 206.
Resolution 206.
Right.
Am I missing anything?
Any questions from Mr. Kirk?
It's always good to have you come down. Mr. Kirk is a very distinguished constituent of District G, a man who's always involved in civic affairs. I want you to know anytime that you come down and you express a concern, you certainly have my attention.
Thank you, sir.
Alvin, we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Bradford, are you satisfied with that, or you want to say a word or two?
No, I'm satisfied with Mr. Kirk's statement, and I do thank you all for listening to us, and I think I provided
I'm sorry, Ms. Bradford.
Councilman Jenkins with everything he needed.
It's a process we have. Just give your name and be
I'm
looking
sorry.
at me frowning, because I didn't ask.
I'm Lily J. Bradford, reside at 4374 Haywood Place in Shreveport, and Councilman Shine is my
Thank you, Ms.
councilman
Bradford.
in that
Thank you.
area.
And all of I am a good neighbor. I pick up all the trash and
That
keep my
one,
grass.
right in the center.
Right. Thank you.
So thank you.
All right, I believe we have Pastor Lennis Mays that want to speak on that subject. Is Pastor Mays in the house?
I didn't see him. Nope.
Okay, I believe we have Mr. Marvin T. Muhammad that want to speak on that subject. Is he in the house? That's it for you. Okay, Marvin?
Yes, sir. Marvin Muhammad, 1413 Clay Street. Want to thank Mr. Chairman and also the City Council for this opportunity to come and speak on this very serious issue. In my right and left hand, I have two resolutions. In one hand, I have the resolution number 27, which I just had distributed to you all. Resolution 27 of 2009 that allowed, that allowed cystic fibrosis and the Shreveport Yachts Club to do a fundraiser on Cross Lake. What we have had, Chairman Shine, we are in fact directly connected to sickle cell, because I made a promise to Ms. Bradford literally 6 months ago, if it's been that long, that despite the vote 6 months ago with the new ordinance, street solicitation ordinance, that we will be working to make sure that sickle cell wasn't negatively affected financially. And so this what this effort was all about. This was our motive. Now, there have come several issues that have come to light that has been questioned, and I want to deal with those. It has been said yesterday by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. He was concerned about other organizations asking for the same thing. Well, our position with that is this is nothing that the city council doesn't do every day. I believe it was just last weekend that Cork did something here in the city of Shreveport. In the city of Shreveport, this council suspended the ordinances that allowed the consumption of alcoholic beverages on public property, which is illegal. Mudbug, at the Good Time Road Festival, and even here at our plaza, literally 4 or 5 times a year, there's a suspension of an ordinance of provisions of the code of ordinance for the city of Shreveport to allow the sale and the consumption of alcohol. So the legality of a thing, that's not the issue. The issue is it something that is good and benefit for the whole of the city of Shreveport, and that's our position. Another issue that came up was the state issue.
Oh, we're gonna get, that means that you have 3 more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The other issue was the state issue with the state highways. Well, that's what they call in law, and Councilman and Council Jenkins can correct me. I believe that's what they call a speechless argument, because this council, in truth, is trying to regulate a state law, and I think that's really outside of our intent. Assistant City Attorney Glass, she also mentioned her concern about, and I think I mentioned this, one of my first things that I said, she also mentioned her concern about other organizations. Well, we have no problem with that. We feel like if other organizations have a desire to do something, then they should be able to do that. 501c3s. But this isn't about just safety on the street. This is about 501c3s, service-oriented organizations that provide a benefit for the city of Shreveport. And in this case, not just the city of Shreveport, but 11 parish region. That is something that the city of Shreveport, this council, definitely shouldn't turn their back to. So, Mr. Chairman, to the council, we thank you for this moment. But again, we think that if you look at the facts, I think you will see that this council has suspended rules over and over and over again. I think in Councilman Everson district, next week, there's going to be a, what is it called? The Jazz Fest.
Yeah. Is it next week or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe there was a suspension of some rules to allow them to do something that would be otherwise illegal. So to do it for that group, or do it for Motebug, or do it for Cork, or any other organization that's doing something in the city of Shreveport, and to deny sickle cell that right would be saying something. So once again, we thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's all that we have that want to speak on ordinance 206.
Mr. Chairman, could we make a motion to suspend the rules and take up our resolution 206? We've had comments.
If you make that motion.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins and seconded by Councilwoman Rose McCullough that we would suspend the rules and take up legislation 206. Any questions or discussion in relation? Oh, wait a minute. Is any questions or discussion in relation to suspending the rules to take up 206? If not, let's vote. Okay, now, Councilwoman McCullough, if I heard you right, it passed with the 7-0 vote. I think I heard a motion from you and a second from Sam Jenkins in order to own that piece of legislation. Did I hear you right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sam, did I hear you right?
That's correct.
Right, Art, would you read it at this time?
206, suspend certain provisions of Chapter 42 of the Code of Ordinances relative to solicitation from occupants of motor vehicles to allow the Northwest Louisiana chapter of the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America, Inc. to conduct the 37th Annual Radiothon Can Shake fundraiser at certain designated intersections on Saturday, November the 15th, 2014, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You've heard the reading of that motion, that piece of legislation. Do we have any comments, any questions?
I'd like to make a comment. I did talk to Mr. Kirk today just to go over parts of that ordinance that are being suspended and the parts that are still in place, so that was clear in terms of what was being proposed. Obviously, there's an issue about 18-year-olds and older being involved in it, and I know Ms. Bradford has been involved in all those conversations and showed them in the Code of Ordinance where the other criteria needed to be taken into account. So, just for the record, I want to make sure we're clear we're talking about suspending the rules on specific locations.
Right.
But the other provisions of the ordinance are still in play for this.
And Mr. Kirk and Ms. Bradford, I know that you all understand that this was put in to place after we had talked with the administration and with the police department. This is strictly a safety measure, and I think the mayor's kind of run out of money for paying for any lawsuits out of his pocket, because you all know he has deep pockets, but I don't think his pockets are that deep, right, Mr. Mayor?
Not at all, Mr. Shine.
So we would hope that you all would keep in mind and tell your workers to please be safe, and because I know you all don't want anybody to run over. So you know we don't want anybody to run over, because we don't want anybody suing the city.
That's sure.
And we do appreciate the work that you all do. And we do appreciate the number of people who are helped by what you all do. So thank you all very much. Councilwoman McCullough.
Yes, Councilman Shine, and to the council, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Alvin, my sorority sister and relative, and I don't know the other lady's young name. I mean, I don't know her name. Carolyn. And Brother Marvin.
Wait just a minute. Miss Carolyn, what's your name so we can get it on the record? We want you to be on TV too. Miss Carolyn what?
Carolyn Roan, R-H-O-N-E.
Thank you, Miss Roan.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming, Miss Roan, and I want to...
Assistant at Sickle Cell.
Oh, wonderful.
18 years.
Wow.
Okay. And I want to give a special thanks to Brother Marvin Muhammad, and also in the absence of City Councilman Sam Jenkins on yesterday, I want to give a special thanks to you, Jeff Efferson, and the other council members that supported me in this effort for this particular resolution on today's agenda.
All right, let's all vote. This piece of legislation passes B with a 7-0 vote. Now, Mr. Clerk, let's get back to our regular agenda.
Mr. Shine, I believe there are no confirmations or appointments. We have no items under Section 8 on the agenda. We're now under Section 9, regular agenda legislation. 188 approves the 2015 Downtown Development Authority Program of Work.
What's the pleasure?
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Jeff Everson, second by Councilman Mark Carmen. Any questions or discussion at this point? If not, let's all vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's off the tracks.
Oh, okay. B, did you hear that?
It's okay.
Yeah, I always say you're off the tracks.
Mr. Sibley, there was no reason to postpone that one, was there?
I'm sorry, which one?
188.
No, not that I'm
DDA.
aware.
189, Mr. Shine, ratifies the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Louisiana.
Been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Any questions, comments? If not, let's vote. This piece of legislation passes with a 7-0 vote.
190 authorizes the mayor to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Shreveport Metropolitan Ballet.
Been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Any questions or comments at this point? If not, let's vote. Legislation passes with a 7-0 vote.
191 authorizes the mayor to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Shreveport Opera.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Jeff Everson. Any questions or comment at this point? If not, let's vote, please. Piece of legislation passes with a 7-0 vote.
192 authorizes the mayor to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Shreveport Symphony Orchestra.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Jeff Everson, second by Councilwoman Rose McCullough. Any questions or comments at this point? Let's vote. This piece of legislation passes with a 7-0 vote.
193 authorizes the purchasing agent to dispose by public auction of surplus vehicles and items and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins. Can I get a second? Second by Councilman Ron Webb. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's vote. Legislation passes with the 7-0 vote.
194 authorizes the mayor to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Red River Disc and Derrick Club.
Been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Mike Carbon. Any questions or discussion at this point? If not, let's vote. Legislation passes with the 7-0 vote.
195 authorizes the submission of the 2015 Annual Action Plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
Been moved to postpone by the distinguished councilman from District B, Jeff Young Everson, and second by our Lieutenant Colonel up here.
Not so young.
Well, yeah, that's so young.
What's the reason
Oliver
for the
Jenkins.
postponement? Why is it
It's a
postponed?
requirement until after we adopt the budget for the.
Okay, let's vote.
He was absent yesterday. You didn't call to tell me.
You didn't ask for a debrief.
7-0 vote. Pass.
Mr. Everson, did you say that
Postpone.
after we adopt the the budget?
Yes.
We need to table this?
Yeah, what we discussed yesterday was
Table may have
tabling,
been
but we weren't
better,
sure which
yeah.
one.
So do I make a motion to reconsider?
You wanna, well,
I mean, that was the intent, to tape.
why don't we just let him tape? You think that's the best?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Everson, right?
Second it.
To
Absolutely.
table, and second by Councilman Jenkins to table. Any questions that, I guess we've asked all the questions. Let's vote. It's been tabled with a 7-0 vote.
For the record, there was it was reconsidered and there was a substitute motion. And it was
That's true,
196.
Work that out with B.
Amends the cooperative endeavor agreement with the Caddo Bossier Parish's Port Commission relative to providing water and sewage for the Port of Shreveport,
So moved.
Bossier, and otherwise providing.
Been moved by Councilman Mike Carvin, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins. I'm sorry, y'all sound so much alike now. Okay.
Leadership.
Yeah, well, you said leadership, man. Okay, any questions? If not, let's vote. Legislation passes with the 7-0 vote.
197 repeals resolution number 168 of 2014. It authorizes the employment of special legal counsel to provide legal advice, counsel, and representation to the city of Shreveport, ratifying it and all work previously performed and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
So moved.
Is that ready, Mr. City Attorney? Is that ready to be voted on?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins and second by Mike Carvin. All right. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's vote.
Threw you a curve, didn't
You should run, you sure did. I almost said 7-0 vote. That's a 6-0 vote and 1 against.
198 authorizes the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Independence Bowl Foundation.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Rose McCullough. It's been seconded by Councilman Sam Jenkins. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Mayor, I see you have 2 people here from the Independence Bowl. Did you want them to come forward and give us a word of assurance?
I think Missy just indicated we're now down to 1. We've lost our intern, Mr. Chairman. I don't think they get overtime for the intern. I think.
And they don't want to pay overtime for that.
Don't want to pay overtime for the intern. But
It's going to the scoreboard, hopefully is what we're.
Exactly.
I mean, let's make sure we get that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that's why I was kind of holding it, because I was hoping that she could get a little bit overtime, Missy, but
she's
I
a
guess
sharp
we had no
manager
luck
of the
then.
budget, Mr. Shine.
All right.
I think she released it right at about 4:59, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's 1 minute before.
I like it.
That's smart. Okay, this piece of legislation passes with a 7-0 vote. And Missy, I thought maybe before the last game that we might be able to get LSU up here, but
They were on a track. They were on the right track to be here.
I don't know. I'm told that the mayor wrote a letter, and he was telling them that he wanted to welcome them. Looking forward to him coming up here, and I believe it must have made him play. He played hard.
I just gave him a pregame speech. That's all.
Okay.
You got 2 weeks, and they're gonna need another one in about 10 days.
Told me we had the downtown hotel waiting.
There you go. They wouldn't have to worry about the train home. There you go. There you go, Mr. Mayor. There you go. That's why we got to make sure that they don't have to be worried with that train home. So,
I think we may be on the track for Texas A&M, Mr. Shine.
We'll put Alabama.
That's pretty good.
I was gonna say, we put the visitors by the train.
Where you gonna put them?
That's pretty good.
Ride the bus down there.
Okay. Okay.
Resolution 201 approves the fees of professionals in conjunction with the issuance of not exceeding $75 million of water and sewer revenue bonds in one or more series for the purpose of financing the cost of acquisition and construction of
Been moved by Councilman Carver, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Any questions?
What number are we on?
201.
It was the
201?
water sewage.
Yeah, 201. Any questions at this point? If not, let's vote. 7-0 vote. Mr. Thompson is back with you.
202 approves the fees of professionals in conjunction with the issuance of not exceeding $76 million, 700 water and sewer revenue refunding bonds in one or more series for the purpose of refunding certain existing indebtedness of the water and sewer utility system of the city.
Okay, Jeff, did I hear you make the motion? Rose, did I hear you second that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because sometimes I have a tendency to hear things that are not there. So I just want to make sure. Any questions or discussion at this point? If not, let's vote. 7-0 vote.
203 declares the city's interest in certain adjudicated properties as surplus.
So moved. Been moved by Councilman Carvin, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's vote. This passes with a 7-0 vote.
204 accepts the dedication of water and sewer easements in Fox Ridge Townhouse subdivision.
So moved. Sam, okay. It's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Okay.
Fox Ridge is near and dear to my heart.
Right. Thank you. Any questions or discussion at this point?
Make sure they have good water and sewer.
There you go. Let's vote. 7-0 vote.
205 accepts the dedication of Coltrane Way and Artist Taylor Drive in Domino Commercial Subdivision.
It's been moved by Councilman Webb.
Yeah, thank you.
Second by Councilman Everson. Did I hear? Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
Everson.
Thank you.
Okay, let's vote. Ms. Jackson, are you coming back?
Johnson, you mean
Johnson.
Johnson, I'm sorry, are you coming back? We want to hear from you. We're gonna get to you. Mr. Mayor, thank you, yes. You had a senior moment a while ago. I had a senior moment. Okay. Legislation passes with the 7-0 vote.
206 has been adopted. 207 declares the intention of the city of Shreveport to proceed with the issuance of not to exceed $65 million street improvement bonds in one or more series for the purpose of financing the cost of constructing, paving, and improving public streets in the city, including utilities, relocation, and incidental sewer and drainage work required thereby, making application to the Louisiana State Bond Commission for approval of such bonds and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Art, correct me if I'm wrong, and Terry, give me some direction. Is that the substitute? So there's no need to make a motion for the substitute, all one? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were clear. Mr. Chairman, members, this is an adjusted version of the legislation that was previously before the council. We've had a $100 million version of this plan before the council. We've had a $75 million version. This is a $65 million version that we believe still represents an opportunity to be able to do some significant work towards improving the quality of the streets in the city of Shreveport. The one thing that council is, again, abundantly clear, our street problem is not going to go away. We have been here for 4 years attempting to address this problem. We passed the largest bond proposal ever in the history of the city of Shreveport, and all that resulted in was about $3+ million being split up or going to each of the individual council districts, and the largest, most challenging street problems before this city still being here with us. I know that the comment that comes from some quarters is that, well, let's wait. I would tell you that if you were to go out and talk to our citizens, they would tell you that they are tired of waiting, that they want to see some action, and I think that it's incumbent upon us to seek to act. The version of this legislation that you have before you encompasses some amendments that were offered by Mr. Webb and other members of the council that make clear that the manner of distribution for this will give us a chance to be able to effectively deviate from that just split it all up equally strategy that has been the hallmark of this council and previous councils, by indicating that 40% of the work to be done here would be focused on our arterials, those large streets like the Jewellas and the Linwoods and the Hollywoods that represent the kinds of large-scale problems that we will never manage to be able to see any progress towards if we don't do something along this line. 30% would go towards those collectors, those streets throughout the city, like the David Raineses and the Audrey Lanes and others that represent those points of collection for our neighborhood streets. And then it also provides that 30% would go towards making an investment where our people live, on the neighborhood streets of this city, which in many instances are in very deplorable condition and represent a great challenge to our homeowners in terms of being able to effectively sustain their property values. Again, I know that there is a sentiment on the part of some not to act. I would say to you that there is a chorus of folks all across this city, from districts A, B, C, D, G, E, F, and G, who are saying to all of us, please do something. And as I have said on several occasions, and Sammy reminds me of frequently, the streets won't fix themselves. And if they ever start to do so, then Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Corbin, we all need to stop and run the other way. Because that would be a miracle amongst miracles. As Mr. Shine mentioned earlier, with regard to the expense associated with the rail crossing there on Lake Street, there is no uncle who's going to send us a check to fix the streets of the city of Shreveport. There's no one in Washington, D.C. There's no one in Baton Rouge. And I guess to put it as Mr. Shine put it, that uncle died. And so this represents another chance for us to be able to take an approach to move this effort forward, to commit a portion of a revenue stream that has been identified for streets that heretofore over the last 3 years has been used on a pay-as-you-go method. And we've had a chance to be able to see exactly over 3 years what we accomplished with a pay-as-you-go. And that is we get some small incremental things done, but the large significant amount of the $500 million plus in street work that needs to be done still ends up being left unattended. And so we're asking, again, on behalf of all the folks that we collectively represent, that we step up and we make a commitment to do something about the streets of the city of Shreveport. I know there has been some expressed concern about implications for the reserve fund. I would suggest that we address that issue after we have effectively established streets as a priority for the citizens of the city of Shreveport. They've asked us to do that. We have the ability, if necessary, to adjust our priorities accordingly. But the one thing that we should not do is to continue to say to our citizens that we will get to streets later. Because we're 4 years in, guys. You're 4 years in. It's time for us to do something that says to our citizens that we understand, we hear. The idea that we leave this to the next folks creates, I think, a series of potential problems. And that is that the revenue stream that's identified here could end up being used for any number of purposes by a new mayor and a new council. There's only guarantee at this point that 2 of you could come back. We know there will be a new mayor. Bottom line is that these are dollars that could end up being expended for any number of purposes that don't ultimately result in helping to improve the street infrastructure of the city of Shreveport. We also know that there is a time factor involved as well. You know, everyone said that they want to come in and do their efficiency audits and all the other things that they have to do. So you could be talking about a time frame of a number of months, if not well over a year plus, before there actually ends up being any sort of an effective street strategy that comes from the new mayor and from the new council. And as you all have had a chance to learn over these last 4 years, even when you come up with what those list of priorities and projects are, because of the length of time involved with packaging projects and going out for bids and the whole 9 yards, that still ends up being a considerable time. And so we're talking now about the possibility of 2016 before there ends up being any possibility of significant street work being done. So for all of those reasons and even more that I could continue to list, I'm asking you all to take on the same sense of urgency that I know that our citizens have, and let's please move forward and do something about fixing the streets here in Shreveport.
It was moved by Councilman McCullough, right?
Yes, sir.
Second by Councilman Ron Webb, right?
Correct.
Okay. I should have carried that through before we had it in the verbiage, but if you'll forgive me this time, I will guarantee you I will not make that mistake again.
You're forgiven. Is this not being, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, is this proposal, it has not come up in the budget discussions? I know there have been at least a couple of meetings.
It really has, but I think what you have are the numbers changed from 75 million to 65 million.
So it's the same.
The dedication's been changed too.
Well, the dedication been changed, I think. Ron has some dedications changes in his district.
So has there been, I mean, some dialogue at all during the budget discussions thus far? Is there a potential for that? Because, I mean, I still believe that this has to, it needs to be vetted along with other needs that may exist for the city.
Right.
I still have that concern, and I mean, that is, I want to be real, very clear about that. That's my concern. It's nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with anything personal with anybody. I want anybody confused about my motives on something. I think it needs to be weighed against, before those dollars are tied up that way, it needs to be weighed against other needs of the city. It's coming up at a good time because you're going through the budget process now. Why not bring it to the table where the administration and the members of the council and whatever departments would be involved with this decision, including finance, can discuss it and just see what we have. When you come out your budget discussions, I mean, the possibility is something you can move forward with, or it may have to be adjusted some more. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but it just seems to me that it makes sense to take a look at it through that process.
Okay, all in favor, let's vote.
What are we voting on?
Okay, wait.
Mr. Chairman?
Adoption.
Yeah.
Adoption. I agree.
I'm going to make a substitute motion that the matter, once again, what did we do with the last one with the 75?
Table.
We table. Now, I'm a little curious how you can not have this as an amendment to the other ordinance, but that's different. I mean, I guess it's semantics, so.
Well, I want to make a substitute motion that the matter be tabled and that it be considered during the course of our current budget discussions. Someone need to make the effort to bring it up during the budget discussions. I'll come do it if I have to, but and everybody get an opportunity to properly vet it, see what.
Now, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Can I get a second?
It's working from there.
Okay, second it. Okay, B,
Yes,
clear
sir.
my bullet, please.
It'll work. You can,
Huh?
you can change it to.
Okay, thank you, B.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to offer some response if this is at a point of discussion or after the motion has been made. I want to be clear, Mr. Jenkins. By tabling the motion, you are effectively killing an effort to fix streets in the city of Shreveport. The same as your tabling of the previous motion is killing an effort to fix streets in the city of Shreveport. And to use as the basis for tabling it, the excuse that we are in the midst of the budget process means that I need to ask you, as I would expect your constituents, all of our constituents, and you as my particular council member, what is it that we have been doing here these past 4 years about the streets in the city of Shreveport? If we are here at this point and the need still exists for this measure, just like the previous measure, to be tabled because there is some other reason as to why we have not yet come up with the resolve, the commitment, the desire, and the intention to indeed fix the streets of the city of Shreveport. We have a revenue stream that has been identified for such. We've had previous measures that have been placed before us, before this body, that would have used a larger sum of money. Wisdom of the council at that point in time, we don't want to go that far. We've come back with that particular measure on 3 separate occasions. You had a 4th opportunity to come in with $75 million. You've now got one before you for $65 million. You've been here 4 years. At this point, folks want to see some substantial action, not just incremental small ball, a couple of streets here, a couple of streets there. They want to see some plan of action that talks about how we take on this overall problem. A $6 million pay-as-you-go approach will not fix and address a $500 million problem. And so if you're at this point and you're still saying, wait, don't act, don't feel comfortable, then the question is, what is it that we're going to do about this $500,000 problem? They're not going to pay for themselves. There is no free money coming from someplace. And the only way that we do it is coming up with some specific plan and strategy. We've been here together since November of 2010. This is our 5th 3 times with a $100 million proposal, 1 time with a $75 million proposal, here today with a $65 million proposal. And I believe that that is the one and only proposal that has come before this council to do large-scale work across the city of Shreveport. I've not seen one that's come from you, Mr. Sam Jenkins. And I believe that your constituents, as well as the balance of the citizens of the city of Shreveport, want to know why it is that you believe that they should still have to wait for who knows how long to see a substantial, significant investment into the improvement of the streets here in the city of Shreveport.
Well, we certainly work to establish the Street Special Revenue Fund, which would be the basis of this revenue bond. Had that not been established, this conversation would not be taking place at all, Mr. Mayor. Please keep that in mind. Secondly, I believe I voted in support of the initial revenue bond for streets at the time that it was brought up, and it was all about timing. I do not agree with the timing of this particular proposal, in light of the fact that I know on at least one occasion, we had to use some of these funds to try to deal with our general fund operating reserve. I have given you my reason. I don't see the reason to continue to repeat it time and time again. Will you please, sir, and will you please have your chief administrative officer, whoever you want to designate, bring this matter through the budget process so it can be properly vetted, weighed against any other needs that the city may have, so we can make a decision about it. I mean, that's where I'm at with it, and I've been pretty clear on it, and that's for you and for my constituents and anyone else that may be concerned. I'm not willing to tie up this money long-term, put the city in an additional $65 million worth of debt, when we have not weighed the other needs that are coming up before the budget. The budget has just been submitted to the council. That process is going on now. Like I said, the timing on this is very good, because it's not like we're saying last January, let's wait till November or October to look at it during the budget process. All of this is something that can be done now. What is your rush? We've got more street repair going on in the city of Shreveport now than we've had in a while. I mean, there's street repair going on all over the city, from the bond, from the Street Special Revenue Fund. We got all kinds of street repair that's going on in this city. So it's not like something is not being done. It's certainly not a scenario where we need to move forward just because the mayor wants to move forward. I think we have a responsibility up here too to take a look at the budget. I think that budget, according to our charter, is something that the council is supposed to consider and adopt. This takes a council vote. Now, if you put it in our hands, don't tell us when and how to handle it. You brought it out here, give us an opportunity to look at it in a manner that we see fit, and you probably get the cooperation that you're looking for. But if you're going to try to shove it down somebody's throat, you're not going to get that kind of cooperation out of me. So that's my position, and that's what I'm looking to do, and that's what I'd like to see us do. And I just asked a couple of my colleagues, had it come up in the past 2 sessions. If not, get it into one of the sessions where it can be discussed. And let's see what comes out of it. And we can certainly move forward, whatever's the most, prudent thing to do. I mean, that's my position on it. That's where I'm at. And I do not wish to get into a debate about it.
But this is the forum, Mr. Jenkins, that the people have sent us here to be able to address these issues. Not for us to go back and talk about them in the back room, not for us to talk about them in closet sessions, not for us to go back and forth in some private conversation, but to go here in the public forum and talk about the issues that affect and impact them. Now, you mentioned that you were the author of the measure. Absolutely you were, but you did so with the full request and the support from this administration, who said not only did we need to increase those franchise fees, but we need to increase them and we need to leverage them so that we can have a larger pool of funds. Yes, there is significant work that is in fact being done across the city of Shreveport, but not nearly enough, Mr. Jenkins. Unfortunately, I think that you are adopting the thinking and taking on the mentality, unfortunately, of some of your better positioned colleagues who don't have great needs within their district. But I can tell you that within District G and within District F and within District B and within District A and within District E, there is significant amounts of street work that needs to be done. And that work has been put off. It has been postponed. Now, you have well positioned some of the areas that may have met with favor within your district. But there are areas all across the city that are in dire need. You have been here for 4 years.
So have
If
you,
you could
Mr.
vote for
Mayor.
it, if it was good to
So
vote
have
for
you,
it,
Mr. Mayor.
if it was good, which is why, and we're sitting here with the fifth
And
attempt to
Mr.
try
Mayor,
and do
you
something.
bring forth this proposal.
We're here
You
with the
bring
fifth
forth
attempt to
this-
try and do something.
Mr.
The
Mayor.
question is,
Mr. Mayor.
the question is,
You selected a time to bring the proposal forward. You've been here 4 years too.
we brought all 4 of them over the course from 11.
talking about this
There's
particular
been,
one
there's
you're
been,
talking
there's
about
been at
today.
least one proposition to do extensive street work brought before this council over the last 4 years, 2011, 2012, 2013, and again in 2014. At least one major comprehensive street proposal in each of those years. And you sit here right now at this point and attempt to try and give an excuse to folks who know that they are driving on some of the most horrendous streets in the city of Shreveport, the excuse that now is not the time to act. I'm saying to you, Mr. Jenkins, you are doing them a disservice. You are not representing their best interest. And whatever your motivation may be, you can live with it because you're sitting here espousing it. I'm telling you here today that I'm crying foul on it. It's not right. It's not fair. And you owe the folks who sent you down here more than what you've given them.
I'm gonna call for the vote at this time.
Well, let me say that, Mr. Mayor, you're entitled to your opinion, and you have your job to do.
Right.
And I'm entitled to my opinion, I have
Yes,
my
you
job
are.
to do. So, I mean,
And that's why I suggested that we air them here publicly so that everyone would know exactly where we're standing.
so understand.
Let's vote on this piece
so
of
understand,
legislation, please.
That's why they give us
What
one
are
of
we
these buttons
voting
over
on?
here. Okay?
Substitute motion?
The table, we voting on the substitute motion to table that was given by council. All right. Substitute motion passes with a 4-3 vote. Okay, vote for the substitute motion and 3 against it. Mr.
John, we're now
Let's
under
move
the
on.
introduction
Councilman
of resolutions.
Yes.
Excuse me, I asked to be excused, you know, there's a meeting
Sure,
going
that's
on in my
right,
district.
and you need to
And
be
so
there.
I'm gonna ask to be excused, is that okay, Oliver Jenkins?
I think it's appropriate at this point.
Thank you so kindly.
All right, Mr. Clerk, please.
We're now at the introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to November the 11th. 208 states the city of Shreveport's intention to redirect $2,100,000 of bond proceeds from proposition number 3 of the 2011 bond election intended for the Murphy Street viaduct to other streets and drainage improvements within the city. And 209 ratifies the use of certain equipment by Mountain Olive Baptist Church and otherwise provides with respect to.
It's been moved by Councilman Mike Carvin for introduction. Jeff, did I get a second? Okay, it's been seconded by Councilman Jeff Everson.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And between now and the next meeting, obviously, we'll have a public hearing that'll be in line for the Murphy Street Bridge project. But if there are any questions or concerns that council members have between now and then, please let us know. I mean, we have no specified intent, have some ideas, but that would just free those dollars up for a purpose that could be determined by this council or the next.
Okay, all right. It's been moved and seconded that the legislation would be introduced. It would live for 2 weeks. At that time, it may or may not be voted upon. So let's vote for introduction, please. That's a 6 vote, 1 out of the chamber for introduction. All right.
We're now in the introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to November the 11th. 132 amends the 2014 capital improvements budget. 133 amends the 2014 capital improvements budget. 138 amends section 58-30 of the Code of Ordinances. 135 is a zoning matter C-64-14. It rezones property located on the south side of West 70th Street, 300 feet east of Linwood Avenue, from R1D, Urban One Family Residence District, to B1, Buffer Business District, with MPC and Plan Building Group approval for residents. 136 is a zoning matter C-78-14. It rezones property located on the north side of West College, 370 feet west of Lakeshore Drive, from R1D Urban One Family Residence District to B3. 137 is zoning C-78-14. It rezones property located on the southeast corner of Broadway and Crosby and the north side of Crosby, 600 feet east of Broadway, from R1H, Urban One Family Residence District, to B1 Buffer Business District and B2 Neighborhood Business District.
Been moved for introduction.
Been moved by Councilman Ellison, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins.
Second.
Introduction.
Corbin,
Didn't I say, what did I say, Mike?
Jeff.
I'm sorry. Look, that was Mike Corbin who made the motion, I'm sorry. And Sam made the second for introduction.
Okay.
So any questions or discussion at this point? If not, let's all vote, please, for introduction. Legislation will lay over for 2 weeks. At that time, it may or may not be voted upon. That's with a 6-0 vote. Mr. Clerk,
We're down to ordinances on second reading and final passage.
what I was about to say, I don't usually do this, and I know I'm breaking the rules, but Ms. Johnson, let me let you come up, because you might have something else that, and we've kept you here so long. If the council doesn't mind it, let me take.
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules.
Okay. Okay. Moved and second to suspend the rules by Councilman Oliver Jenkins and second by Councilman Sam Jenkins. Now you see how special you are.
I feel so special.
Thank you.
Good evening to everybody.
And you got your lawyer with you there, huh?
Yeah, my little sidekick.
All right. There you go, lawyer. There you go. There you go.
We're just here touching bases on what we talked about a little bit yesterday as far as the pay increase or bonus check that we're going to try to get in for the city employees prayerfully at the end of the year. And we touched bases on yesterday. We may not get the home mortgage funds from the Shreveport home mortgage, so we wanted to see if we can proceed further in trying to locate or come up with the, some money to give to the employees by the end of this year.
Let me ask Mr. Sibley and his finance person over there, the young lady who's sitting behind you. I almost said beautiful young lady, Mr. Mayor, but I forgot I'm married. I didn't want my wife to hear me say that day, because Jeff is trying to nudge me on.
Did you want her to hear you say you forgot you were married?
No, I didn't.
You may want to further edit.
I didn't say
that's while you're on camera.
Jeff, no, Jeff put words in my mouth. Now, I did not say that. But Mr. Sibley, would you all see if there's any kind of way that you all could pinpoint some funds maybe we could use in order to give the employees a raise, and and Mr. Thompson, would you and your competent staff see if we can pinpoint any kind of ways that we can come up with some funds, and I'm not going to say the number. I'm not going to say $500, $1,000, or $1,500. I'm not going to try to tie you down or pinpoint you on how much you need to do, Mr. Thompson, but you all see if you can come up with something, because I know milk has gone up, bread has gone up. Matter of fact, I bought some shoes the other day for my grandkids, and ooh, Dale, you'd be surprised at how expensive they are. And Miss Scott, I know you don't know what I'm talking about, but I believe in a few years you might have a few grandkids, and you're going to have to buy clothes for them. Mr. Harris probably does a little bit of that already, coming out of Kansas City. So whatever we can do, because we need to do something. We need to do something, and I want you all to know that they're going to be, they're going to be trying. How much? I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to tie your hands to tell them how much, but I know whatever it is, they would appreciate it, because we have a good group of employees, and they're very appreciative. Whatever we do for them, they really appreciate it. So we're going to be looking to to try to come up with something.
Yeah. I know Mr. Sam Jenkins wasn't here on yesterday, but I submitted this letter. I don't know if you, did you receive it?
No.
Okay.
I
You want
haven't
a
seen
copy
your
of it?
letter. I would like to see, was there a discussion yesterday that the money from the Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority would not be available for bonuses?
Yeah,
I don't think it was definite, but it certainly was told to
Doesn't look
us.
like it's gonna happen this year.
Yeah, I think they were saying the timeline doesn't look like it.
Well, you can ask Mr. Shipland, I mean,
The Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority, as I said yesterday, just had, the new appointees just had their orientation last week. They have not been sworn in, they have not had an official meeting, but in our communications with them, it is unlikely, based upon their communication with us, that they will make a decision on that before the end of the year. So we advised, I initially advised Mr. Webb, as sponsor of the legislation, we advised the council and the mayor yesterday that that's the position as we appreciate it today. So as I also indicated yesterday, what the mayor directed us to do, what we've been doing as administration, is trying to find other ways to deal with two issues. One, the raise issue for the employees, and secondly, looking at, is there anything we can do before the end of the year? But as was said earlier, all of that is part and parcel of the budget discussions that are going on now, because that would have a very definite impact on the budget. So it's something that we have in the proposal. It's something that I guess will be discussed and decided as we wrap up the budget discussions, but we are already in that process of trying to identify, because we don't believe we can count on the Home Mortgage Authority monies before the end of this year.
To add to that, Mr. Jenkins.
Hold on,
Councilmember-
just one minute, Mr. Mayor. Mike, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Ms. Johnson, I think you know, because you've been in front of us so much, that nobody up here, sitting up here on the council or the administration believes that the issue of pay should not be addressed. But I would encourage you to attend some of our budget workshops and listen to those discussions, and would certainly welcome any input from you of where we would identify some money and what we would cut out at this point for pay raises. But I think it's important that you sit in on a few of those meetings and you learn more about the budget and hear the discussions and some of the struggles that we have to do to come up with basic city services, as well as how we reward our employees.
Mr. Mayor.
To the Home Mortgage Authority situation, we did not appoint those folks just to go and say, now go and turn over money to the city of Shreveport without you having a full understanding of exactly what the intended purpose of those dollars are. And so, as Dale just indicated, they are in the process right now of getting properly oriented, reviewing, researching, and obviously coming to some determination as to whether or not that is something that they believe would be an appropriate thing to do. In the meantime, we have been, as Dale mentioned as well, looking internally within the administrative budget for means and mechanisms of trying to do a lump sum payment, because the good thing about lump sum payments is that they do not end up being factored into salary in an ongoing basis, so they have no implications on retirement and what have you. And so that would be something that we would love to be able to do, and we are looking and means of how to do it, and are doing so in conjunction with members of the city council. I think it's also
And you don't have
important.
to take health care out of it either, do you?
Now I will yield.
You have to take health care out of lump.
No, Charles it doesn't, no health care comes out.
Right, I
But you
didn't
do
think
pay
so.
taxes.
But you do pay taxes on
You
it.
do pay tax, but no health care.
Well, we know you have to pay on the SAM now.
Take it out now or pay it
Later.
later. One or the other.
Health care, but you don't have to take out health care, but we know you have to, I don't care what you do, you have to pay on the SAM.
Now
He
or
and I
later.
had a talk.
Also, I think it is, again, and while it may not meet the desires of Ms. Johnson and some members of the workforce, there is included within our administrative budget, our executive budget as submitted to council, a 6% merit pay raise for the city of Shreveport employees. That is 2% higher than the previous merit pay raise that was in the 2008 budget. And so we believe that also represents something that will be of significant benefit to the employees of the city of Shreveport, that comes at a considerable expense and impact to the budget. Whether or not it stays in is something that will be a part of the discussions that the council is in the the midst of right now. But we believe that it was important enough to stake that out, to represent that as something that we would like to see as an administration, because we believe it is something for which the employees are deserving. Very sad to hear that it does not meet with your desire of a 6% non-merit across the board pay increase. But I think if we were to have submitted that, I'm not sure if it would have made or through the council's budgetary process, and it would have been, from our standpoint, something that's hard to justify in terms of being fiscally responsible. So we believe that the possibility exists that we may end up with a lump sum scenario, or we may not. But what has already been submitted is a 6% merit increase that is within the budget as submitted by this administration.
Okay, have
But
anyone
I would,
had a-
let me see, just before you say, I would hope that you all could get a raise for everybody, not just a merit for 6%, because, yeah, I'm gonna just use Mr. Harris for an example. Back then, I love Mr. Harris, but yeah, you know, it might be some employees that he might say, well, you know, you all on merit, and they think they do, and when you go to the store to buy a loaf of bread, they're not gonna ask you, now, did you get a merit raise or what? And if you didn't get a merit raise, bread isn't gonna be as much, or your gas bill. So I would hope that we could come up with a raise for all of our employees. So, and Dale, that's what I'm hoping that we'll, Mr. Thompson, that's what I'm hoping that we can identify that. And I'm gonna give you a chance to say something else and we'll move on.
Harris is here. I would like to ask a question concerning the sanitation employees that have not gotten evaluation for the past 6 or 7 years. So how will they be determined as far as their merit increase if there's no evaluation?
I think that was a question that we answered on yesterday.
We won't bring Mr. Harris
Any pay
in right now.
raise mechanism that's put in place that calls for there to be a merit basis for that pay raise to be awarded, and whatever mechanisms need to be put in place by Mr. Harris, Ms. Jackson within Human Resources and what have you, will be properly and effectively facilitated in order to be able to allow that to happen. But now the first hurdle is trying to have a pay raise of some sort. We prefer a 6% merit. Council may have some different disposition on that. If it ends up being something like the 2% cost of living allowances that we did, I believe in 11 and 12, then those end up costing for no actual review or evaluation process. That ultimately also ends up being a lesser pay raise available to those who in fact meet and exceed the expectations of the work they do for the city of Shreveport. Again, that's a process that will go forward between now and the 9th of December, and as Mr. Corbin suggested, one of the things that would be appropriate would be for you guys to be embedded within these council budget discussions so that you would be able to see exactly what is ultimately going to be behind the decisions that these gentlemen and ladies will make come December 9th.
Okay, yes.
George Watley, 2741 Ashton Street. My concern is that certain departments can execute paperwork to give their employees excessive amounts of money, and yet you can't find $1,000 to pay those who are not affiliated with that department. If you know how to submit a proposal, your department get $10,000 and $15,000 raises a year, but you don't know how to submit a proposal, so your department don't get anything. And everybody's paying a water bill. We all pay water bills. What y'all call it? The budget, water and sewage department, whoever they are, that's got all this money. It's not their money. It's not their money. It's the city's money. And this deal is the morale is separating the city. We all city employees. And because I don't work for water and sewage, I don't get the raise, I don't get the certification process, I don't get a $5,000 a year bump, and then another $6,000 if I get certified because my director can't submit a proposal. I mean, I don't think that's fair.
Mr. Sibley, is it We got anybody that's getting a $15,000?
Oh, yeah.
No, Mr. Sean, I think the critical thing is, as Mr. Corbin pointed out, we deal with a lot of rumors and talk amongst the employees, and we encourage them to come to the meetings, get the information. If they have specific situations, now, I think he's referencing the whole certification pay plan that the HR board passed and the council passed that deals with water and sewer, certain water and sewer employees in terms of certifications, not raises, certifications. But I think the invitation to come participate in the meetings, see where the money is, bring up, and we've encouraged the union, help us identify. You know, we need specifics. We need to identify specifically where the money can be found. And I think employees need to appreciate how much money it takes to do a 1% raise or a $1,000 raise.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off,
It's not a big number.
But
So-
the certification program is not the, I'm referencing that because it's a two-part deal. It's a raise without the certification. It's about $3,000. I got the proposal, and I got the proposal, so it's a raise.
It's going through the HR board, it's going
Exactly,
through the council.
without a
That's-
So you came here and represented it as if it was some sort of a conspiracy of some
Yeah, that's where it appears.
it's not a
Yeah,
conspiracy.
that's where it appears.
But it's
Is
not.
that water and sewage?
Only because you
Water
come
and
here and
sewage was the
represent
only
it.
ones that getting this money,
Because
and
those are the
everybody pay
areas
a water
that
bill.
need the
I
certification.
pay water bill.
Those
That's
are-
my
those
money
are the
too. That's not
positions that need
just
the
water and
certification.
sewage money. That's my money too. I'm a city employee.
You don't do yourself or the other employees.
Yeah, right. That's what you said.
No, you
Yeah.
don't,
Oh,
sir.
I'm sorry.
So
right,
ignorance
thank you.
abounds, but now, exactly, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, thank you all for coming down here. We just wanted to give you all an
Ms.
opportunity.
Johnson,
Okay,
y'all got to do better.
right. Okay, Mr. Thompson, let's move back into the main agenda, please.
Chairman, we're now in the ordinances on second reading and final passage. Number 98 authorizes the city to close and restrict vehicular access to Lake Street from Commerce Street to Skyport Center and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
So move to postpone.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Mike Carvin for postponement. Let's vote, please.
Did Mr. Everson leave
He did leave.
Yes.
for the evening?
He
Yeah,
forgot
yeah.
to ask for my permission to leave.
Yeah, right.
But yes, he did leave. He asked quietly.
Right.
In the middle of the discussion.
Now, Rose asked for his permission, but Jeff didn't.
We don't need to get that into the record.
Chairman,
Yes.
we will look to schedule that meeting and certainly would look to have council presence and involvement.
Talking about,
The
Lake
close-
Street.
The
oh,
Lake Street.
please, yeah, please.
If I
please.
may, while we're talking, one of the issues that came up, and Robert and I talked about this a little bit before the meeting, was the West End guys, and traffic studies haven't been done on the Spring Market going that way. Is that something that, I mean, that may take, Robert, how long does it take to do those type counts?
Approximately 2 weeks.
Okay, so we could be prepared in 2 weeks to present that, but I think a lot of people raised it as an important issue, trying to see how much of that traffic actually goes
Goes over there.
all the way through. So we'll work to have that information available also.
And Mr. Mayor, I would hope at the meeting that we would have people who have a financial interest, and these people who are trying to be impressive, because that's where the stink comes in. You know, they really don't have any skin in the game. Now, if you got some skin in the game, we're gonna listen to you. But if you don't have no skin in the game, all this other verbiage, and you want to impress us with how much knowledge you know and how much research you've done, and you can take that little phone. I pass mine down there, and you can Google and bring up
Your iPad, I got your iPad.
Oh yeah, right.
But you got your iPhone.
You know, you can Google and bring up anything you want to. So these geniuses that we have that want to appear and be impressive, you know, we don't need that, because this is about money. You know, this is about money in the future of Shreveport. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, Mr. Clerk.
Ordinance 108 amends and replaces ordinance number 69 of 1988 to change section 1 of that ordinance from a stop intersection to a four-way stop intersection.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Mike Carvin. Any questions or discussion at this point? If not, let's vote. Legislation passes with the 5.
Well, Mr. Oliver Jenkins, thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Legislation passes with the 5-0 vote. 2 out of the chamber.
Thank you, sir. sir.
109 amends and reenacts certain sections of Chapter 94 of the Code of Ordinances relative to utilities and otherwise provides with respect thereto. There's one amendment. There's some discussion
There's a motion to
about
postponing this
Right.
for a meeting with the
Right.
Infrastructure Committee.
Been moved to postpone by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Mike Carvin. Any questions or discussion?
And just to make that we're clear on this, it's more just to get us up to speed on the issue. So I don't think there's like, I mean, we could do it next week or what? I mean, Jeff, that's when we just need to set on the
Right,
calendar.
and that's our appreciation. There's a lot of little technical changes. You guys want to be comfortable with all
Yeah,
of them.
and so whenever we can make that.
Let's vote, please. Postpone with a 5 vote, 2 out of the chamber.
110 amends the 2014 capital improvements budget. I think this is sport training.
Sport training.
related.
Second. Assuming it's good to go.
Been moved by Councilman Mike Carvin, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins. Any questions? If not, let's vote. Passes with a 5 vote, 2 out of the chamber.
111 amends the 2014 capital improvements budget. This is the airports. It's for runway rehabilitation.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins, second by Councilman Mike Carvin. Okay, let's vote. 5-0 vote, passes.
112 will close and abandon the west portion of Youth Street between Baker Street and Douglas Street in the W.R. Carter subdivision in Section 37 Township 18 Range 14 West.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Mike Carvin.
Interrogative.
Let's vote.
Just a quick question.
Okay.
Jeff asked before he left to see if Bonnie knows of any reason why that this isn't ready to be adopted. If it's good to go, closure, yes. Are we all set on that? Okay. He just,
For the record, that was an affirmative from Bonnie Moore.
Okay, it passes with a 5 vote, 2 out of the chamber.
Mr. Chairman, those are all of the items on the regular agenda. I'm not aware of any matter that's been tabled that's ready to be removed from the table.
Any council members have any legislation that's been tabled that you want to remove? Put it back in the main agenda. If not, we're back in your hands.
I'm not aware of any property standards appeal that the council, I think all of those were taken up yesterday. There's no ABO appeal, no appeals from the Metropolitan Planning Commission or Board, and no other appeals. We're now under reports from officers, boards, and committees.
Do we have any? If not, Councilman Oliver Jenkins, I'll accept a motion from you to,
we're not going to skip another clerk's report.
The,
It's almost been a
I
month
think
before.
the clerk left the building.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'll take a motion then to resolve ourselves in the committee of the whole.
Okay, then move. All right. I thought you all were friends. He's trying to kick you around. Okay, it's been moved and second that we would resolve ourselves in the committee of a whole, and let's vote on that, and
then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. All right, yeah, and we have a motion from Councilman Oliver Jenkins and second from Mike Carvin for the minutes. Let's vote on that. It's been approved, 5-0 vote, okay. Mr. Mayor, I believe we come to you first. Any more communication?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of brevity, we will again say thanks to Shelley Regal and all of her staff at SPAR for putting on a great effort this past weekend and focused around breast cancer awareness. Also thank all of the folks who were involved, from the Asiana Festival to the other SPAR staffers who were down with the Boo Under the Bridge, as well as the LSU tailgate party that I'm sure helped to contribute to an LSU victory, and all the other wonderful things that happened around the city of Shreveport this past weekend. And without question, today ended early voting, so for those who didn't get a chance to get it in between today at 5:30 and last Tuesday when it started. I certainly want to encourage to go out on this coming Tuesday, November the 4th, from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening, and exercise their democratic rights.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, I think they're having a meeting on the Cooper Road, and if you want, what's that old saying about get your hat and your coat? And we'll see you.
You got your hat,
your coat, and leave?
Well, I could not leave before I heard whatever wisdom that one Mr. Sammy Mears
You're right, you're right.
Waiting for us here, Mr. Shine. That would be a pleasure and a privilege. I would not deny myself.
Sammy, you hear that, huh? In a minute, Sammy.
Right, so council communication. The recycling deal, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with recycling. I've got, it's like all of a sudden the last 3 weeks I've been getting just inundated with complaints. And I don't know if other councilmen are experiencing this.
We are.
And I don't know what's all of a sudden happened that now there's some kink in the deal. Because it got better, and now we've got some part of the problem. Are y'all aware if they've either changed routes or did something? I mean,
They might be having personnel problems, I don't know.
We get those calls, we get those complaints. I think we have met in the last month, I think several times with the folks from Pratt and have laid out to them our concerns. I do know that they have been attempting to address. It may be in line with what Mr. Webb just offered. They could be still having some issues complicated by the fact that Republic is now also collecting over in Bossier. We continue to express our dissatisfaction with them and inform them of the fact that there will be a new mayor who was not a part of the administration that brought them on board, a new council member where there will be none of the folks around who were initially a part of bringing them on board, 2 council members remaining at least, who were a part of helping to get up to speed in terms of what was envisioned there. And so the bottom line is they've got to do better. And not doing so, they are diminishing the level of enthusiasm as well as the level of participation on the part of lots of our citizens, because part of what we get in the mayor's office, and we want to continue to encourage you guys to forward those complaints to us as well, so we can help keep a master list for the entirety of the city and have as comprehensive of a detailing as possible in terms of what they are failing to do. But as we share with them, their failure to effectively collect on a consistent basis is resulting in some folks deciding not to participate anymore. They know that absent a sick out that the city of Shreveport is going to pick up on the designated date, they have gotten less certain that their recyclables will be collected. And so it's a concern, it's a problem. We're committed to it because we believe it's good for Shreveport. There's no question from an employment standpoint, it's been an overwhelming success. You've got several hundred jobs with average salaries of $74,000 a year, generating a good amount of recycled paper that comes not just from the recyclables that are collected here in Shreveport, but from a territory that is hundreds of miles wide. But the problem right now is happening from a collection standpoint. And it's a problem that we have left at their doorstep, that we want to work with them to try and fix and resolve. But it has not yet, at this point, gotten to the level of consistency that we want to see it.
Well, then, 2 streets, 2 weeks in a row that I'm happy to know for a fact. There's one is Erie Street that did not get it this week, did not get it last week, and the other one, let me get on the map. I'm gonna give you the other one in just a second. Somewhere over in Jeff's district. There's another person. I mean, when you don't get it 1 week, I got it, but 2 weeks on the same in a row, then people got a problem. I mean, they have put it in there, and they mash it down and put the next week's on top of it, and now they got, well, now I'm going to have to put it, and what's the solution? I mean, we're trying to keep it out of another garbage can for the city. Anyway, I'll give you the other street here. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, if no more communications from the council, Sammy, since the mayor's been waiting on those words of wisdom and encouragement from you.
Thank you. As you can see, I'm wearing pink ribbon, bracelet, watch.
Wow, Sammy, Sammy? Shelley, you see that? Isn't that amazing?
Yes. Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. The reason I come today is because there was something that needed to be addressed involving Cody Street where it meets with Stoner Avenue. There are some holes over there right near the Coca-Cola plant that...
Mr. Harris, can you hear that? You got a reporter there.
They need fixing because when Malcolm Statlander has taken me home, we've gone down that way and he's had to swerve around those potholes to end up missing, and that's no fun. And there's quite a few people that told me that they're just afraid to even take a chance of going down that street. So if that could be taken care of, I wanted to bring it today to let you all know that that needs fixing. And also, I did hear today that when bulls go shopping, they charge their credit cards. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay,
Sammy, you talking about right there on the side, right when you turn off of Stoner?
Yes, it's where the Coca-Cola...
It's been like that for 10 years.
Well, it needs fixing. Because nobody wants to go down that street, and I really can't blame them.
It has.
And if I end up stepping in that thing, it's not going to be
Well, it
pretty.
has.
And besides, I do agree with what Cedric said earlier. If I see those streets fixing themselves, I'll run the other way.
okay. Sammy, thank you. We will now reconvene into our regular session. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Now, they claimed that they didn't like the contract, they didn't like the one with
How's it going?
That's your problem. And for a while, they were telling us, they got nothing to do with it.